This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Followed down the outside of the track next by Rain Road, who's finishing well, but Best Pal breaks away. With a 16th to go, Best Pal has the better of General Meeting. Rain Road running a mighty race, but Best Pal clear, and Best Pal wins the Futurity. At the 8th hole in the Futurity, and Practical Move on the inside takes the lead. It's Practical Move booting away from Carmel Road, followed by Fort Bragg. Practical Move in front, and Practical Move takes the Los Alamitos Futurity.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
These four are now down to two. Cherokee Run, Prairie Bayou. But Prairie Bayou with big strides in the middle of the track leads the way by a half length. Cherokee Run is there, but Prairie Bayou is going to win it at the 16th pole. Cherokee Run with another try at him. Prairie Bayou kept to urging and wins the Preakness by a neck.
There's 3/16 of a mile to the finish. It's Onion on the outside. Secretariat on the rail, stride for stride, head and head. Onion on the outside, Secretariat on the rail. An eighth of a mile to the finish. The leaders head and head, stride for stride. Secretariat and Onion. Onion has the lead by a head. Secretariat on the inside, past the 16th ball. It's Onion in front by a head.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. It is post time for the Equine Forum, the show that launched a network, and it is all presented by our friends at TwinSpires and all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you up until 11 a.m. Eastern, and happy to have you in the starting gate with me on Sirius 162, XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you access your podcasts. A bit of a light week when it comes to stakes action as we wind down 2023 and get ready to ramp things up going into the new year. Just 6 stakes races on the docket this afternoon and only one graded stakes. That's the Grade 2 Los Alamitos Futurity in Southern California, a race which has undergone a few changes since being introduced in 1981 as the Hollywood Futurity. In 2007, the name of the race was changed to the Cash Call Futurity, which it remained until 2014 when it was relocated to Los Alamitos after the closing of Hollywood Park in December of 2013. And historically, it's been a really solid prep for the Kentucky Derby, with 6 Derby winners using the race as a stepping stone to success on the first Saturday in May the following year. That run began with Gato del Sol in 1982, who was actually unplaced in the inaugural running of the Hollywood Futurity. He finished 7th that day. The race was won by the talented Wayne Lucas trainee, Stalwart, who never made another start after that victory. That was his final career race, and boy, did he have all kinds of promise. But you had Gato del Sol in 82. The next horse to run in the Hollywood Futurity and win the Kentucky Derby the next year was Ferdinand, 4 years later in 86 for Charlie Whittingham. Ali Sheba did it the following year in 87. Thunder Gulch came back in 95, pulled off the double. Real Quiet in 98. By the way, Real Quiet, the only one of those 6 to win his prep race, the Los Al Futurity, and then go on to win the Kentucky Derby. And, of course, at that time, it was known as the Hollywood Futurity. 2005 Giacomo, the last horse to run in this particular race and then go on and win the Kentucky Derby. And 6 Derby winners might not sound all that impressive when you consider races like the Florida Derby with 25, the Bluegrass, the Champaign with 23 apiece. But if you were to post a golf-style leaderboard of the Derby prep races that had produced the most Derby winners, the race currently known as the Los Alamitos Futurity would be tied 10th, T10, And, of course, no horse has won the Kentucky Derby after running in the Los Al Futurity since it was moved to Los Al after the closing of Hollywood Park. Maybe the new Curse of Apollo? No, I don't know. But the Curse of Hollywood Park, maybe. Hasn't happened since the race was moved in 2014. Horses who have run in the Los Al Futurity as a 2-year-old are 0 for 10 in the Kentucky Derby the following spring. The best showing came in 2015 when the 1-2 finishers from the Los Alamitos Futurity, Dortmund and Firing Line, finished second and third in the Derby. Firing Line was second that day. Dortmund was third behind eventual Triple Crown winner American Pharoah. So I don't know. Curse of Hollywood Park, maybe. Bob Baffert is going to saddle half the field in today's renewal. No surprise there. Bob is always loaded with his juveniles out there. 3 of the 6 runners, including morning line favorite Coach Prime, come from the Baffert barn. Cool name, by the way, Coach Prime. Prime time. Baffert has won the race a record 13 times, but only Real Quiet was able to win at Churchill Downs the following spring. 1 for 13 with the Baffert horses that have won this race. Not a great percentage there. The main danger to the Baffert trio today is likely to be the Phil D'Amato-trained Stronghold, who exits a second-place effort in the Grade 3 Bob Hope at Del Mar. Phil D'Amato is going to be with me at 9:45 Eastern to talk about today's Los Al Futurity and talk about the talented Stronghold. He certainly has ability. Is he the type of horse that Phil believes can continue to develop the way he's going to need to develop after today's race into his 3-year-old campaign? But he has to take care of business here first, later today. And is this the year, I know there's only 6 horses, but is this the year that we see a 7th winner come from this prep race? Like I said, 6 wins for a Derby prep doesn't sound all that impressive, but it is tied for 10th all time. And when you take a look at the prep races that are below the Los Alamitos Futurity on the list, first of all, the Los Al Futurity with 6 winners is tied with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and the Remsen. That's pretty good company. The races below it that have not produced 6 winners historically, the Louisiana Derby, the American Pharoah, the Holy Bull, the Rebel, the Risen Star, Robert B. Lewis. Those are pretty big names. They're all below the Los Al Futurity, so don't turn your nose up at 6 Kentucky Derby winners coming from this race. It's a pretty solid number. And we'll find out in May if it becomes number 7. But Phil D'Amato going to be here at 9:45 to talk about Stronghold and taking on those 3 runners from the Baffert barn later today. I'm also going to spend some time talking with jockey Jose Ortiz coming up at 8:15, just about 10 minutes from right now, as he prepares to ride defending champion Value Engineering in the 2-mile H. Allen Jerkens Handicap at Gulfstream later today. And one of the things I'm going to bring up with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin when they join me for I Ask, They Answer in the final segment of the show at 10:30 Eastern is, would racing be better off if more tracks carded these types of marathon turf races, 2-mile turf races? You don't often see these without jumps in the way, right? Steeplechase races. But I love these long turf races. Absolutely love them. And I think that if more tracks would card a few of these throughout the meet, I do think racing would be better off. I just enjoy these types of races, and I think bettors would enjoy these types of races. Now, of course, the weather in South Florida today is a bit sketchy. We'll see if this race comes off the turf. If it does, it will likely be moved to the synthetic. And I don't think they can run 2 miles on the synthetic there, so it'll be a shorter distance. But if it stays on the grass at 2 miles, I love these types of races. And I can't think of anybody better to have the race named after than the late Alan Jerkens, who loved these types of distance races. So I'll bring that up with Dale and Tim in the final segment. But Jose Ortiz, we'll talk about riding that 2-mile race at 8:15. Trainer Jonathan Thomas is going to be with me at 9 o'clock to look ahead to today's Prairie Bayou Stakes at Turfway, where he's going to saddle likely favorite Wolfie's Dynaghost. He's been really good. Very consistent horse. And the big news of the week off the track came from Kentucky Senate Majority Floor Leader Damon Thayer this week, who announced that he is not going to seek re-election when his term concludes in December of 2024. Thayer has been a huge ally, and that might even be an understatement, massive ally to the thoroughbred industry during his 20-plus years in the Senate. How big of a loss is his departure for the industry? I think it leaves a huge void. And you can say, okay, there are plenty of friends of racing in the legislature in Kentucky. And that's true because it is Kentucky's signature industry. But losing a guy like Damon Thayer, who has been the one to go to bat for the industry and to bring up the different issues and to champion different bills that have benefited the industry over the 20-plus years he's been there, is a massive loss. I don't know if you replace a guy like that. I'm going to also ask Dale and Tim that question at 10:30, but Damon is going to be here himself at 9:20 Eastern in hour 2 of today's show, and I'll get a chance to talk to him about that decision, about some of the things that he is most proud of when he thinks back on everything that he and the legislature in Kentucky have been able to get done for the industry, and then what things still need to be done. There will be issues that come up long after Damon has stepped away. What things still need to be on the front burner, if you will. All right, so stay tuned for that. Very, very busy program. Jose Ortiz in just a few minutes. 8:35, you're going to hear from trainer Jeff Delhomme, the brother of Pro Bowl quarterback Jake Delhomme, who last week went 2 for 2 on Louisiana Champions Day at the fairgrounds. He also won the Louisiana Champions Day Classic with Touch Upon a Star for the second consecutive year. Jeff spent a full hour with me this past week on Trainer Talk, and you're going to hear about 15 minutes of that conversation coming up at 8:35. I think you'll enjoy it. Again, Jonathan Thomas at 9 o'clock, Damon Thayer at 9:20, Phil D'Amato at 9:45. The TwinSpires Triple Play kicks off hour 3 at 10 Eastern. Ashley Anderson has 3 races you can keep an eye on later today and bet at TwinSpires. Kurt Becker Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20, and at 10:30 I Ask, They Answer, Dale and Tim, tackling some of the hottest topics in the sport today. All of that ahead. When I come back, Jose Ortiz will join me, and I'll throw out the poll question for you here this morning. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Horse of the Year candidate, Elite Power.
Jackie's Warrior makes his move on the outside. Elite Power on the front outside. And Elite Power gets up to win the sprint.
Elite Power is moving clear and going to take the rear to sprint by a widening margin.
5-5 all defeating at 875 down or down 900 and 900,000. Elite Power to the front. But Elite Power does it again in the Breeders' Cup sprint.
Standing at Juddmonte.
There are plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park with live thoroughbred action Friday through Sunday and simulcasting 7 days a week. Join us on track for weekend stakes races, dine trackside in 10 Palms with an elevated view of the track, and grab a cool cocktail in the Carousel Club. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
The best son of leading sire Munnings, Jack Christopher, showed he was an exceptional talent early, winning the Grade 1 Champagne Stakes with a 102 Beyer. At 3, Jack Christopher racked up wins in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 Woody Stevens winning by 10 lengths, and proved much the best in the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkens. With his pedigree and outstanding physique, Jack Christopher represents fantastic value with his foals arriving in 2024. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
And there's a quarter of a mile left to go. Despite being wide every jump, it's Value Engineering who's come away with the lead. From the inside, and Sole Volante ducking to the fence, and Barberini. Eighth of a mile to go. It's still Value Engineering in front. Wicked Fast takes a shot at him on the outside. Value Engineering close to home on a clear lead. And Value Engineering proves much the best to win the Allen Jerkens a length and a half. Second, Wicked Fast. Up third, Barberini. Then Sole Volante. Caninos in 2:43 flat.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on this Saturday morning, the 16th day of December 2023. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you, looking forward to a weekend of racing that's a bit light in terms of the stakes action, but a good one down in South Florida, the H. Allen Jerkens Handicap, which is a 2-mile race on the grass, assuming that it stays on the turf with the weather being a bit dicey in South Florida. Value Engineering, you just heard the call from Pete Aiello, won the race a year ago. That was on the synthetic in 1 mile and 5/8, and today we'll see how he fares in his title defense. Jose Ortiz is going to be aboard Value Engineering, and he's going to be with me momentarily here on the network. I want to give you the poll question. Didn't get to that in the opening segment of today's show. Going to keep it pretty simple for you here this morning. Which trainer is your 2023 MVP? And there are several individuals I feel are deserving of that title. But I'll give you a few, and then you can comment if you have somebody else. Todd Pletcher, Brad Cox, Chad Brown, and then the fourth category will be other. And please comment if you think it's somebody other than those three that should be the MVP of 2023. Todd Pletcher, Brad Cox, Chad Brown, or other. You can go to @HRRN on our Twitter feed to cast your vote, and you can do it on our Facebook page too, Horse Racing Radio Network. And if you don't do social media, email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and let me know your thoughts on which trainer should be the 2023 MVP. Well, as a champion jockey, Jose Ortiz knows what it's like to be at the top of the mountain and be an MVP, and kind enough to spend a little time with me here this morning. Jose, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully, my friend. Looking forward to this 2-mile race later today. Let's start with the weather. What's it like in South Florida?
Well, honestly, I think the race is going to be off. It's going to come out to a tapira just like last year. It's pretty windy. It rained overnight, and it's supposed to be rainy by lunchtime. So it's supposed to rain a lot during the races today.
In the first segment of the show, I talked about the fact that I feel racing would be even better if tracks were to card more of these longer marathon types of races on the grass. What do you think? Do you like riding these kinds of races?
Yeah, it's nice to ride, but we got it. It's a breeding issue, I believe. Not a lot of horses want to go this long anymore, and it's hard to find these kind of horses.
Yeah, it's definitely a specialty type of distance, right? When you're riding a horse in a 2-mile race, are you always thinking about saving something for the end? Is that kind of the mentality with a long race like that?
Well, how I approach the race always is try to break good and let my horse relax wherever I am. Let him relax. Usually it's gonna be a 3-turn race, so safe ground in 2 turns, and in the 3rd turn you can do whatever you want. Or if you wide on the 1st turn, then you can be wide on the last turn. So, let the horse relax and save as much ground as I can. That's my approach to these kind of races.
Do you ever get tired riding a 2-mile race?
No, because when the horses get a nice, comfortable rhythm, you just gallop in there, you're in a nice rhythm with them. And, no, not really.
I know you're fit. Your legs don't start burning or anything. Your thighs, no.
No. But honestly, most of these guys, they are on the same level of fitness. So, I mean, I ride with them every day, and none of them seem tired after a race. So, I think we are in pretty good shape.
You know, you're not the first jockey to talk about getting a horse to relax during a race, Jose. How does a jockey go about getting a horse to relax and settle in?
It's a lot of horses that they do it on their own, but it's some of them that are a little bit keen that, I mean, if you know the horse, you just try to break quietly, don't mess with your hands, don't move your hands a lot, and, you know, it's every horse is different. So it's a good thing if you ride them in the past that you already know them. If you don't know them, then you have to, that's the hard part. You have to adapt very quickly to that horse in a matter of seconds. And I think that's where a lot of jocks make the difference right there.
You know value engineering pretty well. The last 3 times you were aboard him, you win the Allen Jerkens. You end up second, beaten just a length in the Grade 3 W.L. McKnight last year at Gulfstream, or earlier this year, I should say, in January. And then you win the Grade 2 McDermott. So 2 wins and a second from 3 tries aboard him. His best finish without you on him over his last 10 starts is 3rd in allowance company. So you know him well. He likes you being aboard him. Obviously, he responds to you. What is it about that relationship with this horse?
No, I'm just, I don't know. I just let him be happy. And like I said before, just break and let him be him. And let him get into a good rhythm and a good position. I think when you kind of stop these kind of horses, they're not fast horses, so you cannot stop them or fight with them too much. So I'm going to look for a nice trip on the rail, but let him run to the first turn. Whatever we're going to be, I think it's going to be on the Tapira. So just let him run to the first turn and get into a comfortable rhythm early on.
And if it goes to the Tapita, the distance would not be 2 miles. I guess it would revert back to what it was last year, right? A mile and 5/8. Yep. So the inside draw, 1.5 miles on the synthetic there at Gulfstream. And do you change your strategy at all? Do you have to do anything different?
I think I'm in a great spot. You want to be saving ground. I mean, the main thing is gonna be a good break. If he break clean going into that first turn, then it's perfect because then you're already inside. You don't have to go anywhere. So I see one other speed in there, and that'd be it. That's it. Like I'd probably just be sitting second, chilly, and waiting the time to let him go. If he responds good, I think we're gonna have a good trip today.
You know, your brother's also in that race, and I remember sitting down with you and Arad together at Saratoga several years ago, and we did an interview, and you talked about your relationship and the closeness that you have with your brother and your family, and it was one of the more enjoyable conversations that I've ever had on radio. I remember it vividly. Tell me about, now seeing Arad have all this success, and you continue to be highly successful. Tell me about what it's like, being 2 of the top jockeys, if not the top 2 in the country.
Oh, it's great, Mike. It's awesome, to see where we come from, and we both, just living the dream is amazing. He's a great guy. He works hard, and, he's having a lot of success in last 6-7 years, and I'm very happy to see it. But of course, I want to beat him as much as I can, and we all here to compete for Eclipse and be on the mix or whatever. But I'm very happy. I'm proud of him. He deserves everything that's happening to him. He works hard, and he's an amazing jockey. He's blessed with ability that he's just born for it. He's very natural, and horses run for him.
What makes him such a good rider, Jose?
I don't know. I think it's something that is a gift. You're born with it, and then you polish it. But I think he's born with something else.
Well, you are too, and there have to be some similar traits with you and your brother, whether it's work ethic or whether it's talent level, whatever it might be, some intangibles. What are a couple of the things that you and Arad have in common that allow you to be so successful?
Well, discipline. Discipline is one of them. That's the most important one. We work hard, but that comes with the discipline as well. And I think just the way you walk around, you respect everyone, and you make good relationships, and that everything comes together. So you have a good discipline, you work hard, you respect everyone, you're gonna get good opportunities, and if you a good rider, then you're gonna get good mounts, and you just take it. I think, and you need a good agent, which we have, and that's about it. But the most thing is you gotta be disciplined and you gotta work hard.
Yeah. Talking with Jose Ortiz Jr. here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Jose, are you a goal-oriented type of person like a lot of other professional athletes?
What do you mean?
I mean, do you set goals for yourself?
Oh, goals. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, every year you set goals. I mean, of course, now we come into January, we're going to start a fresh year. So the goal would be to be number one. I mean, everybody, whoever is going to come into January thinking they're not going to be number one, then they not believing in themselves. You got to come into a new year with your goals and trying to be number one, and just that's my goal every new year. Just find a good 2-year-old, find a good Derby mount, find a good Kentucky, try to get a good horse in every category. So that will be my goal.
Do you think you have a good 2-year-old now in Locked who won the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity?
He's very nice. I actually have 2. I think Sierra Leone is a pretty good horse as well.
Yeah.
I like my chances for this for the Derby preps on those 2 horses. Of course, a lot of I'm gonna ride a lot of more 3-year-olds coming up. So I think it's early, and a lot of horses can get a lot better in this next 2 months. The next 60 days are key for these 3-year-olds.
We always talk about their development and how much they grow into their frame physically from 2 to 3 in these couple of months, and then mentally how much they mature. That's a real thing, isn't it?
It is real, yeah. You can see a horse in July, and then you see the horse in February the next year, and it's 2 different horses, So, yeah, there's a lot of things that change mentally and physically, and I think sometimes the Derby winner does debut in November or December, stuff like that. So anything can happen, and that's why you got to keep working and try to keep finding as much 2-year-olds as you can. You never know which one is gonna be the one.
Yeah, and I guess the more options you have at this point along the road to the Kentucky Derby, the better, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And Sierra Leone, a horse that was very impressive breaking his maiden, came back in the Remsen Stakes, ends up finishing second that day. He's a horse that, to me, looks like he still has a little maturing to do, but he is ultra, ultra talented.
Yeah. for sure I think he's special. And you see the replay from that day, it wasn't one horse that came from the back. Everybody was on the lead or second, and that horse came from far back, and he ran a pretty good race. So I think he's a nice horse, and he needs to grow up a little bit more mentally, and I think he will. He's a nice horse, and, Chad is great. But like I say, the next 30, 45 days are going to be key on those kind of horses. So they need to grow up. They need to mature. And if they do, they give you that step forward that you need.
I made a comment on the show last week talking about that, Remsen, that to me, Dornoch showed an awful lot of heart. And it looked like Sierra Leone was home free when he passed him in mid-stretch, and then Dornoch comes back and gets the victory by a nose. But I said Dornoch came back and won that race. Sierra Leone did not lose the race, meaning he didn't just give up when he made the lead. Am I right or wrong on that, Jose?
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to tell because he makes such a good run, such a big run,
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I felt like Dornoch kind of make a good lead and kind of wait a little bit on horses, and when he felt me, he kind of re-brake a little bit. But my horse was logging in a little bit, and I never should go very close to him. But because my horse was running and he was logging in a little bit, I kind of let it drift in, and then I meet him, and that horse, yeah, he came back like he got a big heart because he went fast. It was a fast pace up front. It was heartbreaking. I wanted to win that race, and like I say, it's always to win those kind of races that prep you for the Derby. You get points. It's a point system, so
yeah,
you got to try to get as much as you can.
Is Locked a different type of horse than Sierra Leone?
Very similar horses. Very, they very relaxed, both very classy. Nothing bothers them, which I like. You need that. I think Lock, the Santa Anita track was very speedy. The other horse freaked out that day, Fearness. Went to his second, and he kept just running. He ran very good. He's a good horse as well. But my Luck only got beat a nose or a head for second. So I think he ran good. He was climbing a little bit with the dirt that day. I think he's still learning, and he's going to move forward. I really like that. I really like Luck as well. He's a very, very, very nice horse.
Well, Jose, I'm happy to see you with a couple promising runners, and that's nothing new. You've been at the top of the game for a long time, and you're all class, my friend. I really appreciate the visit here this morning. I told you I'd keep you 15 minutes. We went a little over that, but it was so enjoyable. Thank you for spending the time. Good luck later today. Safe trip every time you get a leg up, and a Merry Christmas to you and your family, my friend.
Thank you. You too, Mike.
All right, buddy. That's Jockey Jose Ortiz here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Yeah, what a great guy. And there he is talking about Locked, talking about Sierra Leone. You want a little inside baseball from the guy who knows those horses as good as anybody? You got it. Looking ahead to the first Saturday in May next year, we'll see how those horses develop and mature over the next couple of months. And you heard him talk about the next 2 months being critical in the development of a horse. It certainly is. There's no doubt about it. And we'll see how those two continue to mature. And we'll see if he can get it done with value engineering later today at Gulfstream Park. Time now for your Legends of the Turf. When I come back, going to bring you a segment from this week's Trainer Talk show, my conversation with trainer Jeff Delhomme. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Stay with me. It's all ahead after your Legends of the Turf.
Pouring back the sands of time through the hourglass of racing history to a late November day in 1923 brings us to the story of a match race between two superb thoroughbreds who squared off in a rubber match, having defeated each other once already. It was at Churchill Downs, and an enormous crowd had assembled for what promised to be a dandy in no uncertain terms. The combatants, Harry F. Sinclair's Zev and Carl Weideman's In Memoriam. Zev had won the first confrontation between the two in that year's edition of the Kentucky Derby, and In Memoriam had turned the tables on his foe in the Latonia Championship Stakes barely 3 weeks before this particular match race. Each of the owners put up $10,000. The Kentucky Jockey Club did likewise. The winner was to take home $25,000, the loser $5,000. Earl Sandy was in the saddle on Zev. Mac Garner drew the assignment on In Memoriam. Zeb was a big brown horse wearing blinkers for this match, and In Memoriam was a strapping bay with a deep chest and a long free stride. When they lined up at the barrier, every eye was glued to the two stalwarts, and the excitement and anticipation of the moment was indeed intense. Zev made a false start. Then starter William Hamilton let them go on their way to a race that to this very day underscored in the annals of sport as one of the all-time great ones. Zev broke out on top, but apparently under orders. Sandy wrapped up his mount a bit and let In Memoriam under Garner go on out to set the pace. Down the stretch, neath the hallowed TwinSpires and on into the turn, it was In Memoriam by a length. On around the clubhouse turn, they stayed the same way, and as they went down the backside, In Memoriam opened the lead up to a length and a half. At the half-mile pole, In Memoriam headed by 2, and Zev's fans began to wonder if their favorite could catch his rival, who was running easily and being well rated by Garner. At the 3-furlong marker, Sandy dropped his mount down and asked for a run, and a run he got. The white silks of the Rancocas stable, glistening in the fall sunlight, began to cut down the margin, and by the time they hit the top of the stretch, they were racing as a team, a ton of horseflesh pounding powerfully to the wire. This, my friends, was a horse race by any measure or means. In Memoriam on the rail, Zev matching marvelous strides just to the outside of him. As they thundered down the straight, Zev drew away to an open length lead, and then a length and a half, but with a furlong to run. It was for practical purposes all over. It appeared In Memoriam was a beaten horse. But wait just 1 minute. Garner began pumping, whipping, and driving furiously, and with enormous courage, In Memoriam came on again, closing the gap with every long, smooth stride. Late on that bright, sunny autumn afternoon, with shadows creeping across the racing surface, these two titans of the turf, with their brilliant riders driving their mounts forward in synchronized motion, provided the vast throng with the most magnificent spectacle of sport. The crowd roar had been swelling to now reach a crescendo as the two locked together just noses apart, only jumps to the wire. The 40,000 on hand at Churchill that day breathlessly spent from what had been a spectacular race. As they hit the wire with In Memoriam on the rail, Zev on the outside, nothing to separate them. Zev roared some, In Memoriam roared others. "It's a dead heat," yelled one spectator who nearly toppled from a perch on the grandstand roof from all the excitement. Jack Dempsey, a long-time well-noted turf observer, called it In Memoriam by a nose. In Memoriam, the wires flashed and the telephones called out. But wait just 1 minute. The call came out that Zev had been declared the winner. So close was the finish that will always be, to this very day, a matter of dispute amongst those who saw it as to which horse actually had won it. There were no photographically recorded finishes in those days, only 3 placing judges hovering above the track at the wire, who apparently saw Zev's brown nose at the wire, a bare fraction before In Memoriam's ruddy bay nostrils. Both riders, Sandy and Garner, had handled their mounts beautifully. Losing owner Carl Weideman said to winning owner Harry Sinclair, quote, "It was a race fit for kings between the 2 best horses ever to be found," unquote. It all happened November of 1923 at Churchill Downs, a great moment in thoroughbred racing.
You're listening to HRRN, Horse Racing's Voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The 2024 Stallion roster at Adena Springs North offers exciting opportunities for breeders. Tap into the famed Leafard's Delta family with American Guru, a winner over a mile on turf in 132.09. His sire produced classic winners Empire Maker, Grindstone, and Red Bullet, and his first runners are on track in 2024. Shaman Ghost is Ghost Sapper's best son, a multiple Grade 1 winner of $3.8 million. His first crop of Ontario-sired runners start in 2024. Adina Stallion's silent name is the only son of Sunday Silence at stud in North America and Canada's champion sire 3 years in a row. Signature Red is the only son of Bernstein at stud in Canada and the best value stud in the country. And Dynaformer's heir, Point of Entry, is Canada's #1 sire by progeny earnings, turf sired, and average earnings per runner on turf in 2023. Learn more at adinastallions.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Touch Upon a Star in front for Tim Thornton at the quarter pole. Tumbarumba second. Well back. Bayou Jam and finally Cosmic Train. Last to make the top of the fairground stretch. Touch Upon a Star leads Tumbarumba now by 3 with 1 furlong to go. Tim took a peek back and Touch Upon a Star has widened to a 4-length lead. Tumbarumba second, well clear. They're coming up toward the line. Touch Upon a Star. Tumbarumba chased throughout. Touch Upon a Star. Tumbarumba. The Louisiana Champions Day Classic 1-2. Cosmic Train and Bayou Jam was last to the 4, 150.12. Touch Upon a Star, wire to wire.
John G. Dooley with the call of last weekend's Champions Day Classic, Louisiana Champions Day Classic at the Fairgrounds, going to Touch Upon a Star for the second consecutive year under jockey Tim Thornton for trainer Jeff Delhomme, the brother of NFL Pro Bowl quarterback Jake Delhomme, who is the man who guides Set Hut Racing, the owners of Touch Upon a Star. Going to hear from Jeff coming up momentarily as he took time to spend an hour with me on Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton this past Wednesday. You can listen to the entire podcast of the show on our website at horseracingradio.net. But you're going to hear about 15 minutes of that conversation coming up momentarily. Jonathan Thomas, who will saddle the favorite in today's Prairie Bayou Stakes at Turfway Park, will be with me 9 Eastern. Kentucky Senator Damon Thayer at 9:20, talking about his decision to not run for re-election next December, and he'll share his thoughts on where the horse industry stands today. That comes up at 9:20. 9:45, trainer Phil D'Amato looking ahead to today's Los Alamitos Futurity. 10 o'clock Eastern, the TwinSpires Triple Play with Ashley Anderson. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20. And Dale and Tim with I Ask, They Answer at 10:30 Eastern. All of that still to come. But as I mentioned, Jeff Delhomme went 2 for 2 on Louisiana Champions Day last Saturday, including that big win in the Classic. He is now 8 for his past 12. That is a sizzling 67% win rate. And Jeff started by talking about this current hot streak and what it's been like for him.
It's great. It's kind of like, the horses are doing all the work. We really don't do much other than just, kind of keep them happy. But we've been blessed to have a small stable with some really nice horses headed by 2 really good ones.
Yeah. And Touch Upon a Star, maybe the true star of the stable right now. He is a back-to-back winner of the Louisiana Champions Day Classic Stakes. He did that, as I mentioned, on Saturday. He also saddled Mangum to victory in the Louisiana Champions Day Sprint Stakes. So 2 for 2.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like I said, those horses are really nice horses that we just got lucky. We liked them as yearlings when we bought them, and they just matured into something that you would hope all the horses mature into.
Take me back to Saturday at the fairgrounds. Put me there with you. What was the day like for you?
Oh, it was a great day. We had a truck full of people. Everybody went. My guys from the training center, dad, brother, close friend, the owner of Cosmic Train, who's also in the feature with, is an old friend of the family. That one of the only other outside horses we keep in our barn. And beautiful day. My wife, my 2 kids came. Jake's wife, kids came, and a lot of friends from hometown. A lot of guys we know from New Orleans, and it was just a beautiful day, and I couldn't have written a better ending the way, it happened that day.
It's funny, Jeff, I say this a lot on various programs here on the network, and when I talk to people that are with their family on big days like this at the races, and they get to enjoy the highs and even the lows that come along with this sport with their family, that's a special thing, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. And, and like my wife and my mom and Jake's wife, they put forth the effort to make it there on those big days too, just hopefully we have a day like we did, and, it all paid off. So, but yeah, it's those days are few and far between. And, right now it's like, Jake and I enjoy so much of every start Touch Upon the Star makes, every start Mangum makes, because, we know it's not forever, but we've just, we've had a blast these past year and a half.
We've mentioned an awful lot of names in a very short time to kick off the show here. Let's kind of set the stage for people. You come from a racing background, Jeff, a racing family, if you will, going back to your grandfather, Sanders, and you mentioned your father, Jerry, who, by the way, is still training some horses, and he did run against you in that Classic Stakes with Cosmic Train. He ended up finishing third. Your brother, Jake Delhomme, people will know him from the NFL, a Pro Bowl quarterback, and now the owner of Set Hut Racing, which is the stable that you trained for with your brother. And that is just so cool to be able to do that. But it truly is a family affair for the Delhommes, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And, and when you say my dad and I, Jerry, ran against each other in Classic Stakes, we kind of just ran together. Set Hut as a whole is like, kind of overshadows everybody, me, my dad, and Jake. And we don't train against each other. The horses that are under Jerry's name, the horses that are under my name are all really under the same umbrella with, Jake making all the calls, because Jake is also, like me, a third, generation horseman. So his knowledge is just as much as all of us put together. And I guess he takes of all the, conditioning, strength training, all the doctors and trainers he's seen along the way in the sports aspect, because he was he has experience in the track and field also, kind of puts it all together, and, it just works really together, with all of us, because we're basically all one and the same, so it's like we're not competing against each other. They just, all kind of compete with each other.
Jeff, that's one heck of a quarterback to have running the show for Set Hut, isn't it?
It is, and hey, I enjoy it. I much prefer taking instructions than giving instructions, because I can always blame Jake if something goes bad. So I'm the ultimate yes man in the organization.
Well, let's talk about those two horses that won on Saturday, and then we'll get into more of your family background and that history there. Touch Upon a Star. He has been the true star. Back-to-back winner of that Classic. Tell me more about him and his story.
Jake and I have kind of almost watched him grow up right down the road from where we were trained. The breeder, Koto, Keith Myers and Ginger Myers. One of the guys, Andrew Carey, it's kind of like their bloodstock age. He kind of overlooks, and Andrew has become real good friends with the family. When he comes in town, look at all his clients' horses, he stays at Jake's house, and we always kind of tag along with him and go look at all the weanlings, yearlings, because, that's what we like to do. That's what we do. And we kind of saw Touch Upon a Star as a weanling, saw him as a yearling. They told, he went to the Dallas sale. We kind of followed him there. Not saying that he stuck out and he was the best horse, and that it was just something we thought we might like to have if we can afford him. Ended up buying him in the Dallas Fort Worth sale for, I want to say, like $15,000. He was always nice, confirmation, really good. He just started growing and growing and growing, galloping really good, really smart. He went through a goofy stage. Then it started, getting almost back to the way he looked as a yearling, getting all proportioned, and it just went real. Jake took it real slow with him. Worked him a couple of times. Not bad. Broke him out the gates with a couple of older horses that had a little speed, and he just jumped out the gates and went to running, and Jake and I said, we might have something special. And we were trying to get his 2-year-old, I want to say the fairground season when he had his first start. I think he ran second that day, and it was kind of like a trainer's error. We didn't have enough time. We were trying to catch that big purse. It is what it is. Ran second, kind of didn't break well because he didn't have enough experience in the gates. And, from then on, the next race after that is just, he exploded, and it's just been a whirlwind, and he's been, he's been taking everything in stride. Jake's been giving him his rest that he needs in between races, not trying to kill him because he's done a whole lot more than we ever dreamed. So right now it's just pick a race, try to get to him, let him he pulls out of his race, tells us when he's ready to run again, and Jake makes a decision on where we're going from there. And with the program it is like it is in Louisiana, we really don't have to go out of state to chase any money.
Yeah, the program there is really strong, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. We have 2 opportunities to run. The Champions Day is $150,000. Premier Night at Delta, another $150,000. Evangeline has a couple of stakes here and there, and he has more than enough opportunity to, make the kind of money he needs to make and, accomplish the things he's doing, in state.
Jake was kind enough to take some time for an interview with me last December. It was for our Christmas Eve program that we did here on the network. And one of the things he told me about Set Hut and his approach to the game, he said, I'm all about Louisiana. I have all Louisiana breds, and I'm hoping that one day one of those Louisiana breds can be cultivated to the level where they can go out and they can compete on some of these bigger open stakes, maybe at Churchill Downs or wherever the case might be. And you mentioned Touch Upon a Star getting his shot in the Steve Sexton Mile, which was at Lone Star in May. Do you see this as a horse? He's a gelding, Jeff. So do you see him as a horse that maybe is that one that can start competing with, open in greatest stakes maybe?
I really do. Are we going to ever try him? I don't know. That's going to be solely up to Jake. I'm satisfied in staying in Louisiana. If he wants to go out and test the waters, sure. You look at his numbers, you can kind of put him up against anybody. I mean, the horse that ran second in Champions Day, Tumbarumba, I think he ran the Remington Derby, in the graded race ran second, the Delta Mile. He beat the horse that ran third in the Travers, so that just the form tells you, I think he can run against those horses. I don't know. That's gonna, like I said, that's solely up to Jake. I'm more than happy and satisfied on everything he's accomplished. Do I want to go out of state with him? Maybe. Do I maybe want to keep him in Louisiana and keep him really sound and run for 3 or 4 years? And if we're lucky enough, we can retire him and he'll have, let's say, $2 million, the best Louisiana bred that ever ran. I don't know. I don't know what's the answer, but whatever the answer is, Touch Upon a Star is going to let us know where we go with him. And the decisions by Jake.
I asked Jake what he loved most about being part of racing, and Jeff, here's what he had to say.
I think for me, it gives me that competitive void that I think you miss from playing in the NFL or playing sports. There's just something about it. It's so difficult. And when I try to explain to my friends who I played in the NFL with and things like that, is that if you're successful as an owner, let's say, or a trainer, 20% of the time, you win 20% of the time, you're pretty darn successful. Well, find a quarterback that wins 20% of his games. Yeah, you're not playing. You're cut.
Yep.
It's hard. It's difficult, and I think that's what I enjoy so much about it. I love the yearling sales. I love the breeding aspect of it. I love looking at these young prospects, watching them and kind of envision what they're going to be when they grow older, and then what works, what doesn't work. Just everything about it. But I think the biggest thing is the competition aspect. That's the thing that really drives me. I love to compete, and like everybody in this game, you love to win. And this game can humble you like no other. And you're always learning. You're constantly learning, and there's just something about it. It's my drug of choice, and I certainly love it.
Jeff, are you as competitive as Jake?
I think maybe as a younger man I was. I don't know if I still am. I don't think I am as much as Jake. But then again, I've basically almost lived my life through Jake. When I finished college, sure, my goal was to maybe go play in the NFL a little bit. Had a bad injury where I never had the opportunity to try. Not saying I could have done it, but from there I just went to watch Jake play in college because he's 5 years younger than me, and then followed him in the pros, and then he gave me the opportunity to work for him with the horses. So I guess like I said, I just hung on to his coattails, and he's drugged me around, and I've had a great career enjoying watching him. I've lived almost his life, in the shadows of his life. And, I feel like all of his accomplishments are things that I've felt. So I don't think I'm as competitive as he is, but yes, I'm still competitive, and I enjoy the hard work like Jake does. And I put it this way. I wish he was my older brother, because I could have learned a whole lot faster in life watching the way his work ethic is and stuff like that. And I've learned a lot from him, being an older brother.
Well, baby brother has taken you on quite a ride, and that NFL career was outstanding. Got to play in the Super Bowl, Pro Bowler, all of those things that came his way because of all of his hard work and his dedication. Jeff, what are some of your most, your fondest memories of Jake's football career?
I would think in college, foremost, he went to UL. USL was called back then. They beat a ranked Texas A&M team at the Cajun Field, and remember jumping on the field with all the student section tearing down the goalpost and bringing it out of the stadium. That was great. I remember the NFC Championship game when he played in Philadelphia. Me and a good friend of mine, we flew because Jake didn't want anybody flying because he heard stories about the fans, but he wasn't stopping me to go. So me and my buddy went, and after the game, ended up winning, and I'm going through the stands, and the crowd, the people were terrible over there, like really ugly. And I'm picking up posters, going meet Jake in the locker room after. And I guarantee you I had at least 5 posters had Jake Delhomme sucks all over, and I had them all wrapped up on my arm. And after we kind of celebrated outside the Philadelphia Stadium, it was a blast. We went to Seattle for the other NFC Championship game, just the Super Bowl. It's just been a wild ride, and I can't thank him enough, bringing me along for the ride.
Yeah, I was disappointed in the Super Bowl, and that was in 2004 when the Panthers faced off against the New England Patriots, and Patriots won 32-29. But as a lifelong Pittsburgh Steeler fan, I was cheering for Carolina. I did not want New England to win that game in any form or fashion. And man, what a game that was, though, huh?
Oh, it was crazy. I could see we were in a suite on the top of Reliance Stadium, and in the corner they had this red Cadillac convertible. That's what the MVP was getting after the game. And look, we were up not much longer. I said, Jake's going to win MVP. I'm going to church in that Cadillac Sunday morning. So we ended up losing, and everybody's, crying. We go pick up Jake in the little bus after, and nobody's saying anything. Everybody's scared to death to say anything, to hurt Jake's feelings over there. And he walks in. I said, Jake, I could have been driving that Cadillac if Casey wouldn't have kicked it out of bounds. Everybody kind of started laughing there, but it was a great experience.
Now, so many great experiences recently for trainer Jeff Delhomme, and that great story there. My thanks to him for taking time to join me for a full hour on Trainer Talk. Again, that interview available on our website and on every podcast platform if you want to hear that full hour conversation. He is so much fun and so happy for all of his success and the success for the team headed up by Jake Delhomme. When I come back, I'll get you ready for hour number 2 and pass along an update on the poll question here this morning. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
Small cell lung cancer can affect anyone, not only smokers. The good news is early lung cancer screenings can detect small cell lung cancer before it spreads, when the disease is most treatable. Join Stand Up to Cancer and Jazz Pharmaceuticals to raise awareness of small cell lung cancer and accelerate the pace of research. Ask your healthcare provider about screening options that might be right for you or a loved one. Visit standuptocancer.org/lung to learn more.
Hey, Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Kelly Clarkson, and as the daughter of a school teacher, I know just how important education is. No matter how old you are or your situation, continuing to learn will enrich your life and help remove barriers you didn't even know were there. So much opportunity, y'all. Whether it's a foreign language, history, or a different way to look at things, take some time each day to learn something new. This message is courtesy of the United States Air Force.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Well, John, the stage is set for the final transaction.
That's right, Joe. Heather's moment has arrived, and you just hope all that training pays off.
Heather lays down her purchase, but Randy rings it up as slowly as he can.
He is a wily veteran.
It gives Heather's eyes the chance to wander.
Uh-oh.
Yep, she's looking at the cigarettes.
There's nothing good back there. Quit now, and in 5 years, your odds of getting certain cancers drop 50%.
Meanwhile, Randy's stone-faced. He's giving nothing away. He just stands there, wetting his cashier's finger on that sponge.
Heather toes the rubber.
Here we go. Heather's arm is in motion. But instead of pointing at the back wall, she just grabs the gum off the counter.
That's a slick move.
Heather back. She is out of there. Even Randy tips his cap to Heather. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally wants you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
As they corner in the Autumn Stakes, Wolfie's Dynaghost in front. Win for the money second. On the inside, Luckman, and then came Artie, Storm and Tyson, but Wolfie's Dynaghost racing away with it. Wolfie's Dynaghost has absolutely toyed with them, and the Autumn Stakes was absolutely in the bag for Wolfie's Dynaghost from the get-go. Wins by 4 1/4 lengths. Second, Win for the money. Third, Luckman. Artie Storm next, Tyson a disappointment, and last, War Bomber, 142.52.
Robert Geller with the call of the Autumn Stakes, last time out for Wolfie's Dynaghost. A very impressive victory that day. That is a win that has made him the likely favorite in today's Prairie Bayou Stakes coming up at Turfway Park later tonight. Going to be joined by Jonathan Thomas to kick off hour number 2 to talk about Wolfie's Dynaghost, so stay tuned for that. Poll question this morning: which trainer is your 2023 MVP? And I gave you a few choices, and then, of course, the other category where you can comment with somebody other than the top 3. Todd Pletcher, Brad Cox, Chad Brown, or other. And among the 3 choices I've given to you, Brad Cox is leading the way with 37% of the vote. But we are getting responses to the other category. Jenna Antonucci getting a lot of love, and what she accomplished this year, that historic season, certainly deserves to be in the MVP conversation. That is also what Larry says, LT in Louisville, emailing the show, and says Jenna Antonucci. Tom in St. Louis says Bill Mott, and Bill Mott is getting a lot of play as well. A lot of people looking at what he did in the Breeders' Cup and then earlier races throughout the year. And he had a tremendous year. So for those saying Bill Mott, hard to argue with that too. Keep those votes coming at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. And yes, you can do what Larry and Tom have done and email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. Hour 2 is coming up next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Mike Penna with you on this Saturday morning, as always, continuing on right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. If you missed any portion of the first hour of the program, that entertaining conversation with Jeff Delhomme at 8:35, or if you missed my conversation with Jockey Jose Ortiz, who was fantastic, talking about him, talking about his brother, talking about how they go about their business, how they handle things, and the things they do that allow them to be at the top of the game year in and year out. Head back to the website, horseracingradio.net. You can listen to those conversations. Jose also talked about a couple of his top 2-year-olds that he rides looking to get to the Kentucky Derby next year. Again, the podcast on our website and every podcast platform. Follow us on social media at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, another way to keep in touch with the show and see what's coming up. Jonathan Thomas set to join me momentarily. We'll talk about the Prairie Bayou Stakes tonight at Turfway Park. Kentucky Senator Damon Thayer at 9:20 discussing his decision to step away and not run for re-election when his term comes up at the end of next year. That's December of 2024. We'll talk to Damon about that and some of the things that he feels still need to be done within the horse industry going forward, even after he steps away. And I'm going to ask him, who's going to pick up the baton? Who's going to take the ball and run with it here? It's hard to replace a guy like Damon Thayer. Who does he see is the next person that will champion horse racing in the legislature in Kentucky? Phil D'Amato with me at 9:45 to look ahead to the Los Alamitos Futurity. 10 o'clock, it is the TwinSpires Triple Play with Ashley Anderson. 3 races you can keep an eye on and bet at TwinSpires later today. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20. And at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer. Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin will both be with me for that segment, and really looking forward to catching up with them. Several really intriguing topics to get into with Dale and Tim later today. And one of those involves Damon Thayer. I'm going to ask them the same question I just posed just a moment ago. How big of a loss is Damon stepping away? How big of a loss is that for the industry? I'll ask them that question. I'm also going to ask them about Fierceness, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, likely to make his 3-year-old debut in the Grade 3 Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream on February 3rd. That, unlike the Los Al Futurity, I went through the litany of horses that have won the Los Al Futurity or run in that race and then gone on to win the Kentucky Derby. 6 of them, only 3 horses who have competed in the Holy Bull have gone on to win the Kentucky Derby the following season, and it hasn't happened since Barbaro in 2006. So, good move for Fierceness to kick things off in the Holy Bull, or should he wait for the Fountain of Youth? That is one question I will ask Dale and Tim in the final segment of today's show. Jonathan Thomas is indeed with me now. He's got a busy night ahead of him at Turfway Park, getting ready to saddle likely favorite Wolfie's Dynaghost in the Prairie Bayou Stakes. Jonathan, happy to have you aboard, my friend.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. How about you?
Yeah, we're doing okay. Trying to thaw out here at Turfway, but, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, Wolfie's Dynaghost has been red hot over the past several starts, and really throughout much of his career. He is so consistent.
He's been a really cool addition to the barn. I mean, he's, you know, kind of the quintessential, you know, racehorse where, you know, he just really shows up. He's a real pleasure to train. His owners have been a really fun group to get to know. So, you know, it's been positive, you know, all around.
Owned by Woods Lane Farm. Tell me more about them.
Well, their owner, they do buy horses, but, you know, specifically they've been more owner breeders. And, you know, this mare, Dynaghost, been as good a mare as anywhere on the planet, really. I mean, he's a half the Styler's Joy. And, you know, so this mare has been throwing some really, really good horses. You know, they're just lovely people. They take very good care of their horses. They're patient, thoughtful. And it's, you know, everything you could want in an owner. So they've been a real pleasure to get to know.
How about this horse? I mean, we mentioned earlier, just a few minutes ago, I said he's been red hot. When you look at his record here in 2023, he's won 4 of 7 starts, and last time out won the Grade 2 Autumn Stakes at Woodbine on synthetic and drew off to win that one by 4.5. He really toyed with the competition that day. What are you seeing from him that leads you to believe he's sitting on top of his game?
I mean, more of the same. He's come out of the race really well, and, you know, it's a rare opportunity to run in the stake on the synthetic. As you know, it's, you know, kind of a rare thing to get, you know, south of Canada. So, you know, we're just going to try to take advantage of him doing well and the fact that there's a race in front of him. So, but, he's training well, but he has all year, and we just hope for a good trip and a good pace scenario and take it from there.
Yeah, he comes from that grade 2 and now into a listed stakes like this. People will look at that and say, wow, he's going to outclass this field if nothing else. Do you feel the same way?
I mean, I think when you get to this level, a lot of times it's about timing. I mean, certainly it's a drop, but there's some good horses to respect, and, we're not in a position to ever take anything for granted. So, he's still going to have to show up. He's still going to have to probably run to the level he was, in that grade 2. But if he does, he's going to be very tough.
Why was this the right spot for him?
Just timing. And like I said, I mean, if you're going to really try to dissect the synthetic stake calendar, you're going to be in trouble. You got to take advantage while they're up, because I mean, basically you've got this, and I don't think there's much in between until the stake on Jeff Ruby Day. So it's strike while the iron's hot kind of situation.
He's also a 3-time winner on the grass, so I guess you had those options open too. It didn't have to be synthetic, right?
No, certainly not. I mean, I think he's had a long year, so this might be a good time to give him a brief freshening, and kind of get him kick-started up for next year. He's a gelding, and we'd like to kind of replicate the year we had if we can next year. So we'll probably avoid Gulfstream unless we go down on Pegasus Day. But, outside of that, we'll probably give him a well-deserved little break.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because that was a topic that's come up on the show, throughout the years, is should horses get a break at this time of the season? Should there be an off-season horse racing, if you will? And we handle that by giving horses, individual horses, time off as they need it. Are you a big proponent of that, Jonathan?
Well, I am, and I'll give you a couple reasons. One, when you look back on the way horses were handled 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, it was a very common thing. And this is pre, all our therapeutics and gadgets we have and all the science we have. And to think that we're better horsemen than there were around 60, 70, 80 years ago is foolish. I think, we'd be hard-pressed to think we're nearly as good. And they found that was the right recipe. Horses lasted longer, they ran more. I think it's common sense. I think if you can afford to do it, and most owners should be able to, it's absolutely the right thing to do. I mean, year-round racing is a great thing. It's great for gambling. It's great for keeping your barn rolling, but it's the wrong thing for a horse to have to do year-round.
You run a lot of horses on synthetic, and you talked about waiting for a stakes race on synthetic and how difficult that can be. Synthetic tracks have their fans, and they have people that are against them. So obviously you're okay with it. What do you see from horses after they run on synthetic as opposed to when they run on conventional dirt?
I do feel like they bounce out of their races well, maybe a little bit better. It takes a little less toll on them physically. And so for all those reasons, I think it adds some longevity. I do feel like training on it too is a little bit of an advantage. I mean, I'm a huge dirt fan. I think it's produced, it sorts the really good horses from the really average horses, and has serious ramifications on our breed. Getting the best kind of race horses out, but day in, day out, I think the synthetics provide a really nice option, especially for horses like a Wolfie's Dynaghost, who's never going to go to stud, and who's a racehorse, and giving them multiple options to run is I think it's good for everybody.
I want to ask you to size up the competition in the Prairie Bayou today, and I know you obviously spend time studying the form and looking at the other horses that are in there. But before we do, Jose Ortiz was with me in the first hour of the program, and I said earlier in the show that if racing would card more races like the HL and Jerkens, which is being run at Gulfstream today, assuming it would stay on the grass, it will be at 2 miles on the turf. And I love those types of races. And he said, racing might be better with that, but you don't have the horses that want to go 2 miles on the grass. He said it becomes a breathing issue and all these different things that enter into it. What do you think? Do you agree with me, or do you think that maybe it's not a good idea to have these longer races on the grass?
Oh, I think these stamina races are awesome.
They're
I think
cool.
it's the difference between reading a comic book and a novel. You have a lot of time to see a race unfold, tactics come into play. I think that, when you start to incorporate stamina, you start to really exude the class out of a horse. You can see some really good sprint horses that are, for lack of better words, cheap. I think the lack of stamina races in this country, and then you see it in England, losing traction. It's a byproduct of the commercial market. It's the wrong thing for racing. I think some of the classiest horses we've ever had are stamina, horses that have stamina kick in. I'd love to see way more of it, but it's more a byproduct of breeding in the commercial market and people not having patience. I'm a big fan of it.
Do we have horses in the game today to be able to fill those types of races if tracks were to write them?
I mean, probably not, but the problem, listen, if you can take a bunch of 5 furlong sprinters and run them 2 miles and something's going to win, so certainly, you can card those races. I think you need a series of them so you can keep a horse, in kind of a series at marathon distances. If the purse money was up, I think it could gear people to breeding horses more for stamina down the road. But right now, as it stands, I'd say that it's almost an extinct branch of the thoroughbred family tree is the stamina-laden racehorse, which I think is a real shame.
Talking with trainer Jonathan Thomas here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, getting ready to saddle morning line favorite Wolfie's Dynaghost in tonight's Prairie Bayou Stakes at Turfway Park. 1 1/16 on the all-weather. Post time 8:55 Eastern. It is the 7th race on the program. All right, Jonathan, size up the competition for me. The second choice on the morning line is Ocean Atlantique from the barn of Mike Maker. Who else do you have to worry about? Well, I know you're worried about all of them, but who are some of the main dangers that you're looking at in that race?
Well, I'd be lying to you if I told you I sat down and have looked at this race yet, because it goes off at 8:55. I'm going to look at it later. So I wouldn't have a good answer for you, but I respect everybody. Pull up my time form. I'm a big fan of those and kind of have a look. I do know that I really love our draw because it puts us in, a forward position, but also a chance to kind of, sit and pounce if need be. Certainly that horse of Maker's and, Maker at Turfway is always dangerous. So, we've got a lot of respect for him. And I believe he's run some similar numbers. So, he looks on paper, Ocean Atlantique, like it's going to be our main threat, but it's a horse race and we respect everybody.
Yeah, and Ken McPeak sends out Tiz the Bomb, who is 2 for 2 at Turfway. Always seems to run his best races when he comes to Northern Kentucky. So he's another one that you have to contend with. But as you said, it's an interesting race on paper. Wolfie's Dynaghost appears to be in the best form, appears to be the horse that's going to get the most play from bettors. But you got to show up and you got to run your race. They're not machines, right?
No, for sure. I mean, that's a big part of it, and that's why, getting into a good rhythm with an older horse is like that. It's, you can win some and, lose some. But, the one thing that's a little interesting here, I don't know why, but it seems like horses that are front-end dependent or kind of pace dependent haven't been quite as effective recently at Turfway. I'm not really sure why. So, that's a marginal amount of concern. If the track's kind of playing that way, but it's certainly not going to change the way we're going to approach the racing.
Yeah, Wolfie's Dynaghost is all speed, or he has a lot of speed. Is he a need-the-lead type, in your opinion?
I think he's at his best when he gets an uncontested lead. He's certainly one from right off the pace, or just behind pace setters, so we're comfortable in that situation. But it seems like if he can get on the front end and kind of get left alone, that's when he does his best running. So, I wouldn't anticipate taking that away from him.
We've done a great job with him, Jonathan. He's in top form, and, again, that is the reason he will be the likely favorite in tonight's race. All the best. Merry Christmas to you and to your family, and really appreciate you taking a little time this morning.
Well, likewise. Same to you and your family, and we appreciate all that you do, and thank you very much.
Thanks, pal. Jonathan Thomas here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Wolfie's Dynaghost 2-1 on the morning line under jockey Tyler Connor. Didn't get a chance to ask him about that move going to Tyler Connor, but he's a kid that's doing very well. 3 wins from 38 starts, and if Wolfie's Dynaghost breaks well and can get to that uncontested lead, all he's got to do is sit there and hold on and push the button at the right time, and this horse looks like he could be very, very tough to handle, assuming that he can find himself on the front end. All right, coming up next, I will welcome Kentucky Senator Damon Thayer to talk about his big announcement this week, choosing not to run for re-election when his term comes up at the end of the year. We'll talk about that next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Horse of the Year candidate, Elite Power.
Gates Warrior makes his move on the outside. Elite Power on the far outside. And Elite Power gets up to win the sprint.
Elite Power is moving clear and going to take the rear dirt sprint by a widening margin.
5-5 all defeating at 875 down 900 and 900 pounds enough. Elite Power to the front. But Elite Power does it again in the Breeders' Cup sprint.
Standing at Juddmonte.
Tenda Equine and Pet Care products have been keeping world-class equine athletes happy and healthy for generations. Keep your equine athlete looking and performing well with Tenda Next Generation Wound and Skin Care Treatment, along with nutritional supplements, leg and muscle care products, salves, hoof care, poultice, topical aids, and grooming products. Visit tendahorse.com today.
Airdrie Stud is proud to announce the arrival of Grade 1 winning millionaire Happy Saver for the 2023 season. Happy Saver boasts one of the most important female families of the century, as his third dam is Broodmare of the Year Weekend Surprise, dam of the legendary AP Indy. Undefeated in his first 5 starts, Happy Saver capped off his perfect 4-for-4 season with an emphatic victory in the historic Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
And Happy Saver stays undefeated. He steps up and he wins the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Airdrie Studs, Happy Saver. Think about it.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Polar Expedition digging in and hanging on as Powers Castle is the only one with a chance to catch him. Here's the finish. Polar Expedition by a long net, wire to wire. Serena's Song on the front end, strong on the lead. And with Corey Nakatani aboard, Serena's Song wins it by 3.5. Kahano runs second. Becker, the Bud Longshot third. Final time, 1:49.3.
That's track announcer Dave Johnson with the call of 2 memorable runnings of a race which used to be known as the Jim Beam in the mid-90s. Polar Expedition and the filly Serena Song beating the boys. That was in 1994 and 1995 respectively. That's where it began for now Kentucky Senator Damon Thayer as he started in the industry at Turfway Park. That is where I first had the opportunity to be introduced to Damon, and now he has spent more than 20 years serving the state in the Senate. He is the Kentucky Senate Majority Floor Leader, and he will not seek re-election when his term concludes in December of 2024. That news coming out this past week. Damon is with me now. Damon, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. It's great to hear those race calls. I was right there at the finish line for both Polar Expedition and Serena Song. Serena Song, one of the greatest fillies and mares that I ever saw. And, wow, you're bringing back some memories. You know, I actually got my start at the old Detroit race course in Michigan. And then I worked at Thistledown for 2 years in Cleveland, and then a year and a half at the Maryland Jockey Club tracks before I moved to Kentucky 31 years ago to work at Turfway and then the Breeders' Cup. And it's been a great run so far.
And I know a lot of people in the industry are going to be sad to see that run come to an end next year. Damon, why was now the right time for this decision?
That's a good question, Mike. and I'm going to try to answer it the best I can. First of all, there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. People have said, "Are you sick? Is something wrong with your health?" No, I'm in great shape. I'm working out more than at any point in my life. Secondly, I don't have a job lined up. I don't have a job interview lined up. I do have a consulting business where I do some racetrack marketing and management and development work outside of Kentucky. And I've got some projects that I think are going to pop in the next year or two, and they're going to require more of my time. Also, I'm the co-founder of Kentucky Senator Bourbon with my business partner, Andre Regard. And what started as sort of a hobby at my dining room table is taken off as a legitimate business concern. And I'm going to run the day-to-day operations of the company, and it's going to require more of my time as we try to distill more bourbon and scale up and grow the Kentucky Senator Bourbon brand. And I have a fiduciary responsibility to our investors to put more time into it. But at the end of the day, I just think that sometimes in life it's better to leave a little early rather than stay too long. And I just don't want to be that guy who sticks around, past my prime. I've seen guys do it. I've also seen some younger guys than me leave the state Senate in recent years after staying for less time than I've been there. And that's been a bit of an inspiration to me. And, at the end of my term, it's going to be 22 years. And I feel like it's time to put it out there and see what the universe has in store for me. It's not something I want to do for the rest of my life. I'm not going to get out of politics. I would consider running for a higher office someday, but that's not necessarily what I'm going to do. So I just feel like it's time to move on, and I'm a little overwhelmed at the response. I thought I put the press release out and people would take note of it and move on, but it's been really gratifying, the positive response I've received on my career, and it's been really grateful. And I'm thankful to everybody for their kind comments. I'm even thankful to my haters who have been dancing on my grave at the news I'm not running for reelection. It's really cool just living rent-free inside the heads of all the liberal Democrat activists out there who hate me. I wear that as a badge of honor.
I think the positive response, and I know that comes from many people in the horse industry, Damon, points to the fact that you have been the one to spearhead so many initiatives over the years that have been of great benefit to the thoroughbred industry in the state, and then even setting some precedent for things nationwide with some of the steps that Kentucky has taken with the industry. And you've been the one to champion a lot of those different causes. With you stepping away, you're a Michigan State guy. I'll give you an analogy. You don't easily replace a guy like Magic Johnson, right? So who is going to be the person or persons to step in and take the lead for the industry in the Kentucky legislature now?
There's plenty of people who understand the business who are still in the legislature. Representative Matt Cook is a horse farmer and a sales consignor and a breeder from Bourbon County, and he chairs the Licensing and Occupations Committee where all racing-related legislation goes. The Speaker of the House, David Osborne, is a horse breeder and horse farmer from Oldham County. These are the kind of guys I've worked with to pass pro-racing legislation. And in the Senate, I've worked to develop some real strong advocates for horse racing and people who understand its effect on Kentucky's economy. Our caucus chair, Senator Julie Rocky Adams from Louisville, really understands horse racing impact. The Senate President, Robert Stivers, was a major force behind the historical horse racing bill. And a lot of my members, like Amanda Mays Bledsoe from Lexington, who has Woodford County in her district, she really gets it. And I've been thinking about the end of my term in the Senate for about 5 years. So I've been working really hard to make sure there are members of both parties and in both chambers who understand the importance of horse racing. Really, right now, and this is part of the reason for me deciding not to run again. Horse racing and breeding is in a really great condition in Kentucky. We just have to stand by and protect what we've done. I mean, just in the last few years, we've passed the bill putting in statute the legalization of historical horse racing. And then the next year, with the help of my good friend and former state representative Adam Koenig, we passed a bill establishing a flat tax across all forms of parimutuel wagering in Kentucky. We went to penny breakage, so a big victory for bettors. We added KTDF money to claiming races in Kentucky, something I've been working on for nearly 20 years. Just this past session, we passed sports betting and required that the brick-and-mortar locations are only at the racetracks. So the racetracks have a key opportunity to cross-promote horse racing and our parimutuel products with sports bettors. And we passed a bill eliminating these insidious gray games that were illegal to begin with and do nothing to promote horse racing. And even going back a few years, one of my proudest accomplishments was the creation of the Kentucky Breeders Incentive Fund, which is the best breeders incentive program in the nation. And then the mare residency program that we created for the standardbred business. You know, we talk about, and rightly so, the fact that we've got the best year-round racing circuit in the country on the thoroughbred side. And we've really strengthened that, and we've still got lots of blue sky ahead for thoroughbreds. But Mike, we've brought the standardbred racing business back from the dead in Kentucky.
Yeah.
To the point where it's thriving. And it means something to buy a Kentucky-bred standardbred. The sales of those we call dual-eligible horses have gone through the roof. We've got a circuit now with Oak Grove and Red Mile and Cumberland Run and Corbin. So just really proud of what we have done, and I don't see any sort of big hills to climb for the racing industry in Frankfurt. We just need the industry to continue to come to Frankfurt and tell the positive story about how these new laws are positively affecting jobs and families and the Kentucky economy.
Visiting with Kentucky Senate Majority Floor Leader Damon Thayer here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, setting up to move on from his role in the Senate next year. That'll be December of 2024 when his term concludes. He will not seek re-election. He just talked about that with us here this morning. Damon, you say there are no big hills to climb, but there are always issues that face horse racing, and there are always legislative initiatives that have to be accomplished. So looking into the future, after you step away and you move on to your other endeavors, what are some of the things, the most pressing things you see that could be on the horizon for the industry?
Well, on a state basis, you know, and there was controversy this week about a story coming out of California that Ray Pollock broke about how some people think we should let some of the Kentucky money go to California for Kentucky breds in California, which is not going to happen. But it created a dialogue on social media about other states. And right now, there are states that I believe are very strong. There are also states that are under duress. And I would encourage a lot of those states to look to the Kentucky model. And I'm not saying everything we're doing is going to work in other states, but I think there are things we've done here that other states could look at to try to emulate to strengthen their racing. I think Kentucky is strong. I think New York is strong and going to continue to be stronger. I think there's lots of blue sky ahead for Virginia. In Indiana has a great program. Even places like Ohio and West Virginia and Iowa have, and Louisiana as well, have some really strong elements that keep racing and breeding alive there. But there are places where racing is under duress, and California is one of them. Arizona is another, although if Turf Paradise gets a secure future, that's going to change. Florida and Maryland, very concerning to me and others about the infrastructure there and the future of racing and breeding. So I would encourage people to look to Kentucky and I'm only a phone call away and willing to help out. On the national level, very, very concerning. We have, I was there for the courtship, marriage, and divorce of the NTRA and Breeders' Cup.
Yeah.
And since that split, we have no national voice. We have no national marketing. We have no national PR effort, no crisis communications effort, and we've needed that a lot in the last year or so. I commend Mike Rapoli and Pat Cummings for their efforts with the National Thoroughbred Alliance. We've got to try to do some things differently. We've got to be more attentive to our fans and the bettors and the handicappers. We've got to do some things on fan development. We've got to do a better job on marketing and PR and crisis communications. As everybody knows, I'm not a big fan of HISA. I'm a fan of having consistent rules across jurisdictions, but I think the implementation of HISA has been a disaster. I'm very concerned about due process and constitutional rights under HISA. They have yet to catch one big cheater, but yet they continue to ruin careers of people in the business. And I think you could make an argument that the sport is not safer after a year and a half or so of the implementation of HISA. I think there's still a very good chance it may be struck down by the Supreme Court. There is a repeal and replace effort in Congress from Congressman Clay Higgins from Louisiana. I think we have to have a very serious discussion in this industry without people getting personally sensitive about their particular piece of the pie. And, I have a lot of good friends who work at HISA, not the least of whom Mark Guilfoyle, one of my closest friends. And I'm glad he's there, and I know he's working very hard to make things better. But we're going to have a discussion as an industry about whether this is working or not and what it needs to look like going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, Damon, you mentioned PR, and that's something that I have been preaching for years, and I think that our industry does a horrific job. Really, we don't do the job at all of defending ourselves and promoting all of the 98% positive stories that are out there. It's always the negative stories that tend to make national headlines. And you mentioned Ray Pollock. He put out a report this week, which is now on the Blood Horse too, that FX and the New York Times are set to air a documentary at some point in 2024 called Broken Horses. And that nothing good can come of that for the industry. But there is no PR firm in our sport to say, wait a minute here. Okay, you want to show that? Let me show you the other 500 great things that are happening in the sport just this week alone. And I think that is much, much needed, desperately.
I agree with you 100%, Mike. It's pathetic that we can't get our act together. We have the NTRA office in place that has done this before and could do it again if the racetracks and the horsemen and the breeders and the fans could all get together and in a unified way get behind this. We're going to continue to let other people control our narrative unless we're willing as an industry to take control of it and do it ourselves. Lisa Lazarus is a very smart woman. I don't envy the job she's doing, but she's a regulator. It's not her job to be the spokesperson for the horse racing industry. Somebody needs to empower somebody to be the spokesperson so we can control our own narrative. PR 101 that I learned at Michigan State a long time ago. If you don't control your own narrative, someone else will. And right now, someone else is controlling our own narrative, and that is not good. Maybe something can come out of what Mike Rapoli and Pat Cummings are doing with the National Thoroughbred Alliance. But I'm going to be appealing to the major players in our industry that we need to get together again and put aside some of our selfish concerns and for the greater good, try to recreate what we did 20-some years ago with the NTRA. We've got to do a better job on the PR side of things. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. We could probably devote a whole morning of your show to it, Mike.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Do you see a scenario, Damon, when you do step away from the Senate and you do get a little more time on your hands? I know you'll be working with your bourbon business, as you indicated earlier, but do you see a scenario where maybe you get involved with a Mike Rapoli and try to head up that side of things and the PR side of things and help create that for our industry?
Yeah, that's a great question, and absolutely. Again, I don't have any job offers or interviews lined up. I'm taking this as a leap of faith, leaving and hoping that some things come my way. The answer to your question is absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. I would love to be involved in any initiative to help this sport improve its image, improve its business conditions, improve conditions for owners and trainers, jockeys, fans, bettors, all of these things. Absolutely interested, and thank you for asking.
One thing that gets overlooked when people come out with these announcements, especially somebody as high profile as yourself, is the fact that you're now going to, at the core, have more time to spend with your family. And I know that you're getting ready for your daughter's college graduation later today. That's going to be spectacular, and I want to congratulate you and congratulate her on that accomplishment. Fantastic. Thanks, Mike. I'm actually in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. My daughter graduates from Middle Tennessee State University today with a degree in aviation and professional pilot. I'm very proud of her. She's 22 years old, and yesterday, for the first time in my life, I went up in an airplane with my daughter. My sister and I rode around Nashville, took a flight around Nashville with her, and it's a very, very proud moment for a dad. Watch my daughter graduate from college, and she's doing what only 1% of people in America do, and that's the ability to fly an airplane. And I'm really excited about her future. And my son works in Washington, D.C. for Senator Rand Paul, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to be able to spend even more time with my adult kids. Yep, enjoy every minute of it, Damon. I can't thank you enough for always taking time to join me here on the show. I'm positive we will talk again down the road, but in the meantime, very Merry Christmas to you and to the family. Enjoy every second with them. Thanks, Mike. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays to you, your family, and all your listeners. And it's always been a pleasure to be on your show, and I look forward to more opportunities to do that in the future. You got it, buddy. Have a great weekend. That is Kentucky Senator Damon Thayer talking about his decision to now step away from that role and focus on other things in his life. And, who knows? I don't think we've heard – well, I can guarantee you we haven't heard the last of Damon Thayer in the thoroughbred industry, because at the core that is his true love and his true passion, and that is where he wants to be. And all the best to Damon moving forward. When I come back, we'll turn our attention westward to Los Alamitos, and I will focus on the Los Alamitos Futurity as I welcome trainer Phil D'Amato to talk about his talented 2-year-old Stronghold. That's next on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Experience the excitement of Ontario racing with over $17 million in purses and programs. The Ontario Thoroughbred Improvement Program is loaded with TIP stakes, sales credits, purse bonuses, mare and foal incentives, and awards for both stallions and breeders. Visit tip.ontarioRacing.com to learn more. That's tip.ontarioRacing.com.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
But it's Golden 60 for Hong Kong. 4 on voyage bubble. That's not a whip. That's a wand. That ride from Vincent is magic. Golden 60, the superstar.
Golden 60, the son of Darley stallion Medaglia d'Oro, crushed the competition with that dominant win in the Hong Kong Mile and now holds the world record for career earnings of over $21 million. An incredible accomplishment, which makes Golden 60 your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley stallion Medaglia d'Oro, the sire of 26 career Grade 1 winners and the leading active North American sire by worldwide stakes winners. Medaglia d'Oro's 2024 fee is $75,000. Learn more about Medaglia d'Oro and all the Darley Stallions by visiting darleyamerica.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They hit the quarter pole. Track Phantom trying to see it out. Right alongside is Stronghold. These two head-to-head. Resilience third outside as they race for the 8th pole. Stronghold is up for an arrow lead. Track Phantom tries to fight back, but is a half length behind now. Resilience and Mospresso final 16th, and it's Stronghold with a 2-length lead. And it will be Stronghold first, Resilience second, Track Phantom, and Mospresso.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. You've heard some wonderful conversations this morning, including Kentucky Senator Damon Thayer in the previous segment. You heard from Jockey Jose Ortiz and that excerpt from my visit with Jeff Delhomme, and you heard from trainer Jonathan Thomas. If you missed any portion of the show, check out the podcast after we finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern on our website at horseracingradio.net, and you can listen as well on every podcast platform whenever you have some time. Well, you just heard the call from Pete Aiello of Stronghold breaking his maiden at Travis Stone, breaking his maiden at Churchill Downs back on October 1st. It was a really strong effort. He came back and justified his form in the Grade 3 Bob Hope last time out at Del Mar with a second-place finish that day. And this afternoon, he will take on 5 other rivals in the Los Alamitos Futurity for trainer Phil D'Amato, who is with me now. Phil, appreciate the visit, my friend.
You got it, Mike, anytime.
That effort in the Bob Hope after his maiden win was excellent. I know he was beaten 8 3/4 lengths, but he ran a good race. Only 4 horses in the field. What'd you make of that effort?
Yeah, it was a solid effort. I think we've probably ran against another future superstar of Bob's, but our plan was all along to run him in this Futurity today, to get him around 2 turns and to use that Bob Hope as a prep to get us to where we are today.
What do you see from him that leads you to believe he can be a top 3-year-old into next year?
I like the way he rates behind horses in the morning and does it, very willingly with just kind of the right attitude, and then comes and gets them. I think that's the kind of style you're going to need to stretch out and to go further. And at least in the mornings, he acts like he can do that. I'm encouraged by that, and this will be another, hopefully, stepping stone to get him going in that direction today.
How do you describe him physically, Phil?
I'd say he's medium build. He's probably like 16 hands, or so, and but medium physique. Does everything kind of the right way, and just all around. Pretty nice horse.
I mentioned that Jose Ortiz was with me earlier in the show, and he got talking about a couple of the top juveniles that he's riding right now with Sierra Leone and Locked, and he was talking about the next couple of months being so critical in terms of their development physically and mentally, and that's something we hear an awful lot at this time of year. How critical is this, the next stretch of a couple of months before we get into the major Derby preps for these young horses?
Oh yeah, no doubt. This is kind of where you know what direction you're going towards. Hopefully, we're taking the next step around the 2-turn, realm here, and then from there maybe we'll give him a little bit of breather and ready him if he shows he can go 2 turns, for the preps leading into the Derby.
You're no stranger to facing off with these Bob Baffert runners out there, but you hold your own pretty well too. Every time you look up, there's 2-3 Bafferts in a race, and here's only 6 horses. You got to square off with 3 other Bafferts. Size up the competition for me a little bit.
He's got a bunch of talent there. That horse, that broke his maiden at Del Mar was pretty impressive. That
Coach Prime.
Pratt. Yes, at Pratt's Riding.
Yeah.
You know, he's had another one that's shown pretty good talent. That Juan Hernandez is on as well, and then one that kind of broke his maiden gate to wire. So I mean, he's kind of, Bob's got, typical Bob ammo, going into this Futurity. The thing I like about my horse is I think he's tactical. I don't think he needs to be on the lead or dead last. He can be placed where he wants to, and Antonio has been breezing him and ridden him last time. So I think we've got that going for us, and I sent him to Los Al early to give him a breeze over the strip. So all those things hopefully combined will help us give us a fighting chance today.
Stronghold is owned by Rick and Sharon Waller. Tell me a little bit more about them and that relationship you have.
Oh, they're great. I've probably been training for them 7 or 8 years. I trained Stronghold's mom, Spectator, for him. She was a nice filly, won a grade stake for us and grade 1 place. Really nice a filly, and then I've trained some other nice ones for them. But they're local people, live in California, and breed a few on their own, buy a few. Always have a few to run, but great people to train for, and always do right for the horse.
Phil, we're only 9 days away from the traditional day after Christmas opening day at Santa Anita. Actually, I guess about 10 days away now. It'll be December 26th. Talk about the ammo you're bringing to that meet with the top horses you're going to have in your stable.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have some nice horses. We ran a lot at Del Mar, so I mean, we're definitely, we're definitely going to be loaded. But it's one of those things where you're going to have to just kind of see where the chips fall. I sent a lot of horses out after the Breeders' Cup, Notorious and the likes of those kind of horses. So those horses had a 30-month break or 30-day break, I should say, and came back, and now we're just getting going on them. So it's going to just kind of be a mix of some new horses and getting some older horses ready for later on in the meet. So it should be kind of nice, steady flow, starting off the day after Christmas.
I'm going to assume Stronghold isn't the only talented 2-year-old in your barn. Are there other on the male side or even the female side that you're really high on?
I've got a lot of 2-year-old fillies turning 3 to debut, and a couple ones that I have run that I think will develop. So I'm really heavily loaded on fillies. Colts, I've got a few. I've got a horse named Marty's Fish, who seems like he's pretty nice. I'm probably going to debut him on opening day, but more heavily loaded with fillies.
Well, Phil D'Amato has had an awful lot of success throughout his career, and he's looking for more, not just today, but looking ahead to Santa Anita as well. Phil, I told you I wouldn't keep you long. It's early out there on the West Coast. I appreciate you taking the time. Good luck this afternoon, and let's keep it rolling, my friend. Happy holidays to you and to your family.
Same to you.
All right, buddy. Phil D'Amato, 907 wins to his credit, 106 coming this year. He's had a tremendous year here in 2023, and we'll see how this unfolds for him later this afternoon. When I come back, I'll take a look at a historical date in racing history or two, and I'll get you ready for Hour 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Whoa! Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woohoo! Snarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becker. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Getting ready for hour number 3. I'll tell you what's ahead there in just a few moments. Got a chance to hear from Phil D'Amato in the previous segment. Damon Thayer before that. Jonathan Thomas to kick off hour number 2. And you heard from Jose Ortiz and Jeff Delhomme in the first hour of the program. Don't forget, if you missed any portion of the show, head over to the website, horseracingradio.net, to listen to the podcast whenever you get some time, and you can do that on every podcast platform as well. Well, time now to take a look at some historical dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend here in racing, and we'll kick it off with yesterday. Nothing in particular on today, December 16th, but yesterday, December 15th, 1973, the day that Sandy Hawley became the first jockey in history to win 500 races in a single year when he rode Charlie Jr. to victory in the third race at Laurel. Tomorrow, December 17th, 1936, crooner Bing Crosby announced plans to construct a new racetrack to be called the Del Mar Turf Club. That's tomorrow, the anniversary of that in 1936. And one more for tomorrow, December 17th, 1993 was the day that fire destroyed the grandstand of Fairgrounds, the nation's third oldest racetrack. That was not a good day for thoroughbred racing. Those are historical dates in racing history as they apply to this particular weekend. I've been asking you to weigh in on the poll question here this morning, and so many of you have taken time to do that. But I asked you, which trainer is your 2023 MVP? And I gave you a few different choices: Todd Pletcher, Brad Cox, Chad Brown. 3 guys who are at the top of the list in terms of stakes victories and greatest stakes victories here in 2023. 27% of you are saying it is Brad Cox, but I also asked you for comments if you think it is somebody other than those 3. Bill Mott getting some love in here. He continues to attract a lot of attention after the big year he had here in 2023. That's what Mary says here on social media. Bruce says Bob Baffert. Laura, another vote for Bill Mott. And Nina on social media saying Jenna Antonucci. And I think she's a wonderful choice. And I don't know if that is going to be the first name that comes to mind, but I think maybe it should be, considering the big year that she had. You win the Belmont, you win the Travers, and you make history the way that she did just incredible. And Jenna Antonucci has been a very good horsewoman for a long time. This is nothing new. And now she was able to showcase her talents with a big horse like Arcangelo, and that's a cool, cool story. So wouldn't shock me if we get more votes for Jenna Antonucci in this poll question too. But which trainer is your 2023 MVP? You can continue to keep those comments coming at HRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and email the show, Mike at horseracingradio.net, and I'll try to update them later in the program. Well, 2 hours down, 1 to go. Coming up next, we'll kick off Hour 3 with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Ashley Anderson will be here to give you 3 races you can keep an eye on later today. Kurt Becker will take you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History. A really cool story about the late Speightstown, who we lost recently. Stay tuned for that. And I Ask, They Answer with Dale and Tim at 10:30 Eastern, tackling some of the hottest topics in the sport. If your local station is leaving us at this time, continue listening to the third hour of the program nationwide on Sirius XM, in the Louisville, Kentucky market on ESPN 680, and streaming worldwide on our website, horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum coming up next, right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
This is HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Followed down the outside of the track next by Rain Road, who's finishing well, but Best Pal breaks away. With a 16th to go, Best Pal has the better of General Meeting. Rain Road running a mighty race, but Best Pal clear, and Best Pal wins the Futurity.
At the 8th hole in the Futurity, and Practical Move on the inside takes the lead. It's Practical Move booting away from Carmel Road, followed by Fort Bragg. Practical Move in front, and Practical Move takes the Los Alamitos Futurity.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
These 4 now down to 2. Cherokee Run, Prairie Bayou. But Prairie Bayou with big strides in the middle of the track leads the way by a half length. Cherokee Run is there, but Prairie Bayou is going to win it at the 16th pole. Cherokee Run with another try at him. Prairie Bayou kept to urging and wins the Preakness by a neck.
There's 3/16 of a mile to the finish. It's Onion on the outside. Secretariat on the rail. Stride for stride, head and head. Onion on the outside. Secretariat on the rail. An 1/8 of a mile to the finish. The leaders head and head. Stride for stride. Secretariat and Onion. Onion has the lead by a head. Secretariat on the inside. Past the 16th ball. It's Onion in front by a head.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 of the Equine Forum. Mike Penna, Baron in the backstretch. Happy to have you along for the ride this morning, getting ready for a loaded final hour of the show. If you missed any portion of the first 2 hours, head back to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the podcast there, and you can do that on every podcast platform as well. And don't forget, too, follow us on social media at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. And while you're on our website at horseracingradio.net, don't forget to subscribe to our email newsletters we send out to you twice a week, every Tuesday and every Friday, to keep you in the loop as to what's coming up here on the show and the different guests that you'll get to enjoy, not just this week, but each and every week throughout the year. Well, coming up here in Hour 3, we begin with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Ashley Anderson will do the honors momentarily. Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20. And at 10:30, Dale, Tim. They'll both be with me for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer, and plenty of things to talk about with Dale and Tim on this Saturday morning. Without further ado, let's welcome Ashley Anderson for this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Ashley, good morning. A bit of a quieter weekend on the racing front, but that doesn't stop us from making selections and making bets at TwinSpires, so I'm excited to hear what you've come up with this morning.
Yeah, I mixed it up a little bit. We don't have a ton of stakes action, but still plenty of racing, and I've picked 3 different tracks for you, and we have a whole lot of promos, too, that you can play at TwinSpires this weekend as well. So Hopefully I can lead you to some winners.
Yeah, we'll talk about those promos, and we'll talk about these 3 races. We're going to start with the 3rd at Oaklawn, and then we'll move on to the 4th race at the Fairgrounds and wrap it up with race 7 at Turfway, which is the Prairie Bayou Stakes, one of just a few stakes races, as Ashley said, on the racing slate coming up this afternoon. Well, let's kick it off with the 3rd at Oaklawn. Ashley, this is a contentious race, if you will. It is a allowance race, 6 furlongs, and a lot of ways you can go in this field. Who'd you settle on here?
So I found an interesting filly here in number 5, Back to Ohio at 7-2. And the reason this filly stuck out to me, she's a 3-year-old by Midshipman, and she was purchased for $350,000 as a 2-year-old in training. She's mostly been racing in Ohio, and she's won 2 straight, and she's 8 for 9 for her career. Her only loss was a second when she stretched out to 1 1/16 of a mile and tried turf. And then last out, she won a state-restricted stakes at Mahoning Valley, had a 93 brisnet speed figure. I'm always about those brisnet speed figures. And she's 4 for 4 at today's distance. Her trainer, Larry Velli, is also a 33% winner with horses that won their last race and a 31% winner at the allowance level from a pretty large sample size. So that bodes well for this horse. And I think the morning line favorite is vulnerable here, Lilo. She has failed to win her last 6 starts and actually ranked second in prime power, about 3 points shy of Back to Ohio. So I'm going with a 7-2 choice on the morning line.
You know, don't you find sometimes, Ashley, when you have a horse like Back to Ohio that is Ohio bred, has been racing in a lot of state bred races throughout the Buckeye State, that when they come to a bigger track like Oaklawn, they kind of get overlooked because of that and maybe even disrespected. But when you look at Back to Ohio's form, broke her maiden against Open Company in June of last year, and then comes back in October of last year and wins the Presque Isle Downs debutante against Open Company too. So there is precedent here for Back to Ohio to run good in this spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the fact that she was able to win over at Presque Isle, and so I think she can ship to Oaklawn and do really well here as well.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Back to Ohio, number 5, the top pick of Ashley Anderson here in race number 3 at Oaklawn, 7-2 on the morning line. Do you think we get 7-2?
Probably not. I think that price might come down, but I'm hoping, Lilo takes some money and we can still get a decent price on Back to Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, should set a good trip, too. We'll see how this one plays out this afternoon. Post time, by the way, for that third race at Oaklawn is 2:26 Eastern, 1:26 Central Time locally in Arkansas. All right, at the fairgrounds, we're going to turn our attention to race number 4. This is a maiden special weight event. It is for state breds, Louisiana breds, 6 furlongs on the main track. How'd you see this one, Ashley?
So I went with the fairgrounds. We have a couple promos going on this weekend, and one of them is that you can get 10 times the reward points if you wager at fairgrounds or Turfway Park. So be sure to opt in before you head over to fairgrounds to wager on this race. And I went with number 4, Contraband Early at 6-1. This is a first-time starter for Shane Wilson, who's winning at a 17% rate this meet. And Contraband Early caught my eye because it's a 3-year-old gelding by Star Guitar, who just had a huge weekend on Louisiana Champions Day with 3 stakes winners that he sired and a maiden winner who won on debut. So I'm looking at Contraband Early to hopefully win on debut as well. He's out of a Street Sense mare who has 4 winners from 4 starters. And Wilson's a 21% winner at the maiden special weight level and a 17% winner with first-time starters. So I'm going to go with Contraband Early. Also has a high percentage jockey in James Graham, who's winning at a 23% rate this meet. So I think he's got a chance here on his debut.
So many people, Ashley, will ask me if they're not avid horse players, they come to the races just a few times a year, and they'll look at a race like this where you have horses like your top pick, Contraband Early, who has never started before, and all you can go by is their workouts and the trainer percentages. What are some of the key things when you're looking at a first-time starter? What are some of the key things that you need to see in order for you to pull the trigger and jump in?
So I always look at their sire and the winners from their dam. So seeing the 4 winners from 4 starters from that dam unamused by Street Sense definitely stands out to me for Contraband Early. I also will look at their average winning distance of their sire or their dam sire. And for Contraband Early, it's a 6.7, so right around where we need it to be. And then I'll look at the jockey and the trainer win percentages for first-time starters or maiden special weights. And, if it's a higher percentage, then I think they have a pretty good shot to come out. I think, talking about fairgrounds, Brad Cox also does very well with first-time starters. So I always look at those percentages with trainers and jockeys as well.
All right, I'm going to ask you another kind of inside baseball question here to get inside your handicapping mind a little bit, Ashley. The favorite, number 5, City of Love, 3-1 on the morning line. Whether or not he goes off as the favorite remains to be seen, but he is the favorite on the morning line. he goes from an open company maiden claiming event, a $50,000 maiden claimer, and now goes to a state-bred maiden special weight. Is that a raise in class or is it a drop in class?
Well, it's interesting because now he's got this restricted company, and I feel like seeing that he hasn't been able to even hit the board in his last 3 starts, I'm not really interested in this horse. And Dallas Stewart talking about trainer percentages, not very good, third off the layoff or going from maiden claiming to maiden special weight company. So, yeah, I don't really like City of Love in this spot here.
I'm going to ask you about one other horse in here because this is another horse that figures to take some play. That is number 7, Sassy D, who is 7-2 on the morning line, has been close on a couple of occasions throughout his brief career, but unable to hold on at the end, has a lot of early speed. What do you make of Sassy D?
So I kind of shied away from this horse looking at those Brisnet speed figures, had a 66 in his last 2, and then looking at the jockey win percentage, just a 6% win percentage this meet out of 50 mounts, only has won 3 times. So looking at that, Sassy D's getting a rider switch to a jockey that's lower win percentage. So that caused me to shy away from this horse.
I have to tell you, this is going to be my top pick based solely on pedigree. The sire of Sassy D is a horse named Sassicaia, and being the wine snob that I am, Sassicaia was the number 1 wine in the world in 2015. It's an Italian wine. It is incredible. I got to sample it on one occasion when my wife and I made the trip to Italy. So from that standpoint, I'm going to side with Sassy D. But I hope that your top pick, number 4, Contraband Early, gets to the wire first for our listeners, and Sassy D will end up running second to complete the exacta. How's that?
I like it. I didn't even realize that was a type of wine. So
yeah.
Now I want to try it.
A really good wine. Yeah, it's fantastic. All right, so it is number 4, Contraband Early for Ashley Anderson in race 4 at Fairgrounds. Let's move on to the 7th at Turfway. That has a post time of 8:55 Eastern. So the final leg of the TwinSpires triple play. It is the Prairie Bayou Stakes, race 7, mile and a 16th on the synthetic at Turfway. How'd you see that one, Ashley?
So this is a very interesting field, and Wolfie's Dynaghost at 2-1, a very, very strong horse, just won a grade 2. But I'm going with a long shot here, and at first glance, you might be thinking, why am I backing Tiz the Bomb? But I've got my reasons, and I also want to throw out we have a $10 money back offer, so this is a great chance to back a long shot at Turfway because you get up to $10 back if your horse comes in second in all eligible races at Turfway. So I'm going to take a shot here with number 4, Tiz the Bomb. Now, I know this horse is 0-9 in his last 9 starts, but he's been racing on turf, and he's going back to Turfway, racing on all weather, and he's 2-2 at Turfway, won the John Battaglia Memorial Stakes and Jeff Ruby Stakes back in 2022 before racing in the Kentucky Derby. He was a distant 9th on dirt and then switched to turf, and from that point on has not won since. I have been curious what the plan is with connections with Tiz the Bomb after he failed to even finish in the money in his last 9 starts. And I have a colleague who he relentlessly backs Tiz the Bomb every time he races, and I normally don't see it. I don't understand why he's always backing this horse. I texted my colleague and I asked, are you going to back him this time? And he said, no, Wolfie's Dynaghost is too good. And I took that as a sign it's time to back Tiz the Bomb because my colleague always gets it wrong. And I actually see good reason to back him here. Like I said, he's 2-2 at Turfway. Kenny McPeak is removing the blinkers, a winning move 35% of the time. Tiz the Bomb is eligible to improve third start off the layoff. He's got a sharp workout December 8th at Keeneland. He's getting a rider switch to Joe Talamo, and his career best Brisnet speed figure is a 101, which came at this track the last time he raced at Turfway. And to top it all off, he's a P-type on Brisnet past performances, or a presser type. They're winning at a high rate in 8.5 furlong races. And Wolfie's Dynaghost is an early pace setter type, has a lot of speed to compete with. So I'm going to go with Tiz the Bomb to close late and finally get that win in his last 10 starts. It's
Ashley,
been a while. I think he can do it.
You were the first person to come on this segment or any segment and make a selection based on the colleague off angle. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like there's something to it.
Yeah, that's usually the way it works, too. And by the way, Tiz the Bomb is a horse that I thought very highly of early in his career when he was making his way through the Derby preps, and you mentioned those victories that he had. I thought when they moved this horse to the turf that he was going to turn out to be one of the best turf horses in the country, and it hasn't materialized. You mentioned his 0-for-9 campaign here in 2023, failing to hit the board in any of those 9 starts. What do you think went wrong with Tiz the Bomb?
I really don't know, because when he first started racing on turf, he was winning those races, and I don't really know why all of a sudden switching back to turf has been so difficult for him. I mean, he has kind of moved all over the place, Saratoga, Fairgrounds, Keeneland, Churchill, Ellis, so I think maybe he just needs to go back to Turfway and get a win to get that confidence back.
Yeah, and you mentioned the favorite Wolfie's Dynaghost has tons of early speed, figures to be out front, is a graded stakes winner, is 1-for-1 at Turfway. So a lot of reasons to like Wolfie's Dynaghost, other than the fact he's 2-1 on the morning line, so you're not going to get much value with Wolfie's Dynaghost.
Absolutely not. And he is getting a rider switch as well to Tyler Connor. So that creates a new variable here. And like I said, he's an early pace setter. We've got some other speed horses here, so that might potentially cause a breakdown in the pace and open it up for a closer.
All right, so to recap, Ashley's 3 selections for this week's TwinSpires Triple Play begins with race 3 at Oaklawn. Number 5, Back to Ohio at odds of 7-2 is the top pick. Race number 4 at the Fairgrounds, she'll go with number 4, Contraband Early at 6-1. And race 7 at Turfway, the Prairie Bayou Stakes, she will take number 4, Tiz the Bomb, at a big price. Bombs away if Tiz the Bomb can get to the winner's circle here. 12-1, maybe even drifts up a little bit higher considering that recent form. 12-1 on Tiz the Bomb. Ashley, anything else happening at TwinSpires? I know you mentioned a couple of promos, but anything else we need to let listeners know about this weekend?
Let's see. I talked about Oaklawn earlier. We also have a $2,500 late pick 5 jackpot every Saturday and Sunday. I gave you race 3. It's not part of the late pick 5, but definitely check out Oaklawn's late pick 5 as well. And then we have a $3,000 Los Alamitos leaderboard where you can play for your share of a $3,000 jackpot on Friday, December 15th through Sunday, December 17th. So I know you're getting in a day late, but if you get some long shots in there, you can climb the leaderboard. And we have a Gulfstream Park daily double down. You get a 25% bonus on all winning Gulfstream Park daily double wagers every Saturday in December. So a lot going on at TwinSpires.
All right, Ashley, listen, appreciate the visit. Merry Christmas to you and to your family. Let's hope that we can get our listeners a little more bankroll for those Christmas gifts as we move closer to December 25th here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Merry Christmas to you, too.
All right, all the best. Ashley Anderson, we'll talk to you in a few weeks here on the Horse Racing Radio Network with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Bet those races any way you like. Just make sure you're betting them at TwinSpires. When I come back, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History. And then at 10:30, I once again welcome Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. That is all ahead in a busy Hour 3 of the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The best son of leading sire Munnings, Jack Christopher, showed he was an exceptional talent early, winning the Grade 1 Champagne Stakes with a 1:02 Beyer. At 3, Jack Christopher racked up wins in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 Woody Stevens winning by 10 lengths, and proved much the best in the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkens. With his pedigree and outstanding physique, Jack Christopher represents fantastic value with his foals arriving in 2024. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare.
There's a corner of Kentucky in Bourbon County, which some refer to as the Promised Land. There's something in the soil and water that make it something special. So special that some of the world's greatest horsemen have staked their claim in the soil just outside of Paris. Iconic names such as Claiborne, Coolmore, Stone, and Darley grace the fence lines which have housed champions for generations. The name Alapa shines as a tribute to the Gilded Age, sharing the stature and grandeur of its neighbors. Born from the wealth, passion, and imagination of Edward Sims, no expense was spared to fulfill his vision. Sims was in the same league as John Madden and Arthur B. Hancock Sr. as a commercial breeder. The torch has been passed. Welcome to Hill and Dale at Alapa.
Horse of the Year candidate, Elite Power.
Jockey's Warrior makes his move on the outside. Elite Power on the far outside. And Elite Power gets up to win the sprint.
Elite Power is moving clear and going to take the rear dirt sprint by a widening margin.
5-5 all in at 875 down or down 900 and 900,000.
Elite Power to the front. But Elite Power does it again in the Breeders' Cup sprint.
Standing at Juddmonte.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. He was a champion and a Breeders' Cup winner. He was one of the most successful sires of our era, and he was also a testament to the wisdom of being patient with a racehorse. His name was Speightstown. Foaled on February 1st, 1998 at Taylor Made in Nicholasville, Kentucky, Speightstown was a chestnut son of Gone West out of Silken Cat by Stormcat. While his sire was popular and ranked among the leaders of his generation, Speightstown's mother was an accomplished performer herself, having won the Sovereign Award as Canada's champion 2-year-old filly of 1995. She also happened to be the source of her son's chestnut coloring. Bred by Aaron and Marie Jones, Speightstown was offered as a yearling at the Keeneland July sale, with Taylor Made acting as agent on the Joneses' behalf. On the advice of Kentucky-based bloodstock agent and Canada native Dan Kenny, and also on the advice of trainer Todd Pletcher, Canadian pharmaceutical executive Eugene Melnick bought Speightstown for the price of $2 million. Melnick, a native of Canada, made his home in the Caribbean on the island of Barbados. He would thus choose the name Speightstown for his colt, with Speightstown being the name of a port city on the island's northwest side. Pletcher, a former assistant to D. Wayne Lucas, was 32 years of age and in only his 4th full season operating his own stable when Speightstown was a yearling. But he had already enjoyed success with Melnick, having won 2 legs of the Canadian Triple Crown in 1998 with the Melnick-owned Archers Bay. Pletcher told us by phone this week that a key to Speightstown's success as a racehorse was the fact that Melnick was willing to be patient. Pletcher put it into context by noting that Melnick had given $2 million for a colt which would take 5 years to reach his full potential. In fact, a combination of issues would cause Speightstown to be away from the races for nearly 2 full years at one point, but Melnick was willing to wait. Melnick himself commented on this in 2004 when Speightstown won the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Melnick said, quote, "The moment a horse shows any sense of fatigue or distress, bring him to the farm, give him a little time. The end result is you can win a Breeders' Cup that way. Just give a horse time and eventually he will blossom into what you always dreamed he would be." End quote. Speightstown at age 6 had indeed become a Breeders' Cup winner. It capped a brilliant campaign in 2004, which also saw him win 3 consecutive Grade 2 races: the Churchill Downs Handicap, the True North, and the Vanderbilt. Still, there had been at least some mild concern heading into Breeders' Cup weekend. In his final outing before the Breeders' Cup, Speightstown had finished 3rd as the odds-on favorite in his Grade 1 debut in the Vosburg after stumbling at the start. And then there was the matter of his final workout, which Daily Racing Form had described as less than encouraging when he struggled to keep up with his workmates. Pletcher says, quote, "Angel Cordero was on him and I had told him to keep him on the outside, that this horse hated to be inside of other horses. But I guess he misunderstood the instructions. He ended up putting Speightstown on the rail, and Speightstown finished the work about 5 lengths behind the rest." End quote. Those concerns notwithstanding, Speightstown went to the post for the 2004 Breeders' Cup Sprint at Lone Star Park as the lukewarm 7-2 favorite with John Velasquez aboard. Tom Durkin with the call.
Astonishing pace here by Longshot Abundanza. Here comes Gold Storm to the attack on the outside. And Speightstown down at the rail. Those 3 heading into the final furlong together.
Spikestown comes away with the lead. Spikestown in front. Goldstorm battling on, but he is now spent. My Cousin Matt, a long shot threat coming late. Warner Charlie on the far outside. Keeler's coming late too, but it's going to be Spikestown. Spikestown wins by 2 on the wire.
In what would be the final start of his career, Spikestown had won the Breeders' Cup Sprint and had clinched an Eclipse Award. It made for an incredible weekend for Pletcher, who earlier in the day had won the Distaff with eventual champion Shadow, all of which made for a fantastic homecoming for the Dallas native. Following that race, Spikestown retired to stallion duty at Windstar Farm in Versailles, Kentucky, and became what Elliott Walden of Windstar called a foundational sire for the organization. With 138 stakes winners and 26 Grade 1 winners, the latter ranging from 6 furlongs to 1.25 miles from 16 crops of racing age. Spikestown was a true 6 to 7 furlong horse, says Pletcher. I had believed he would make a good sire, but I will admit his versatility surprised me. Spikestown died 1 week ago on Friday, December 8th at the age of 25. His legacy lives on through that versatility as a sire, and it also lives with regard to his racing days, for he leaves us with a lasting reminder that sometimes the road to a championship is paved with patience. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There are plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park with live thoroughbred action Friday through Sunday and simulcasting 7 days a week. Join us on track for weekend stakes races, dine trackside in 10 Palms with an elevated view of the track, and grab a cool cocktail in the Carousel Club. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
The Maryland thoroughbred industry. For over 200 years, the innovative leader. Maryland was the first to have organized racing in North America and the first to establish a state breeders association. Maryland created the first thoroughbred yearling show, the first state magazine, the first state breeder incentive development program, the first international race to feature horses from 4 continents, and the first $1 million one-day stallion stakes event. The Maryland thoroughbred industry is the innovative leader.
The Run Happies are running, the Run Happies are selling, the Run Happies are winning. Eclipse champion Run Happy is showing a new dimension with winners on turf, dirt, and all weather. A record-breaking sprint champion, Run Happy is also showing winners at all distances.
The son of Run Happy, Nutella Fella, has won the hopeful.
One happy mama wins the Iowa sorority.
Run Happy, price for value, and standing strong at Claiborne Farm.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
And there's a 1/4 mile left to go. Despite being wide every jump, it's Value Engineering who's come away with the lead. From the inside, and Sole Volante ducking to the fence, and Barberini, 1/8 of a mile to go. It's still Value Engineering in front. Wicked Fast takes a shot at him on the outside. Value Engineering close to home on a clear lead. And Value Engineering proves much the best to win the Allen Jerkens 1.5 lengths. Second, Wicked Fast. Up third, Barberini. Then Sole Volante. Caninos in 2:43 flat.
Value Engineering back to defend his title in today's 2-mile H. Allen Jerkens Stakes at Gulfstream. Would racing be better if tracks carded more marathon turf races? Plus, Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner Fierceness is expected to make his 3-year-old debut in the Holy Bull Stakes on February 3rd, but is that the right move? And Kentucky State Senate Majority Leader Damon Thayer will not seek re-election when his term concludes in December of 2024. What does his decision mean for the industry? Those topics and much, much more are straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin. And it's all presented by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. And it all starts just 30 seconds from right now.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
All right, gentlemen, last week we began the show with a brand new segment called Like It, Love It, or Hate It, and I really liked it, so we're going to do it again this week. 2 topics for you. You tell me if you like them, you love them, or you hate them. So number 1, Churchill Downs announced a new partnership with the British Jockey Club along with Ascot Racecourse to offer a program where 2 races on Kentucky Derby Day will offer horses an entry and travel incentive to run at Royal Ascot in mid-June. The winner of the Old Forester Turf Classic will receive a berth to either the 1-mile Queen Anne Stakes or the 1.25-mile Prince of Wales Stakes, and the winner of the TwinSpires Turf Sprint will receive an entry to the King Charles Stakes. Dale, like it, love it, or hate it?
I love it. As long as they don't come along later and want more spots in the Kentucky Derby, I love it. I think it'd be great incentive for someone to go over. And I happen to have a nice turf sprinter. Maybe we could win that thing and go to Ascot.
I want to see you in a top hat.
That's the problem. They have to make a special one. I got a pretty big head. Especially if I'm going to Ascot off of a stakes win at Churchill. My head will be really big.
Have you been to Ascot, Dale?
I've never been. I've never been in Europe other than change planes, but I would like to go. I'd like to see it. I've never seen a real reason to go run. It's the meat and potatoes of American racing, so I'd stay right here and run. But everybody who's been says they treat them like royalty, so I'd love to go.
Yeah, I love the automatic entry thing. I think it's a cool idea, and like you said, as long as it's an entry into the races in Ascot and not another automatic bid into the Kentucky Derby, I'm on the same page as you. Timmy, what do you think? Like it, love it, or hate it?
Well, I like it. It's hard for me to love anything. I mean, it's and I'm not a hard guy, but it seems to me that you get a chance to run at Royal Ascot, because to get there you have to be invited. To get an automatic bid for that and travel incentive, I think is just huge for American horsemen, and it's going to help the Europeans too, because I believe that that some of the horses that from like the Prince of Wales and the Queen Anne over over there get an entry to come back over here to run the Arlington Million and Beverly D at Colonial. So I think it's a win-win for both sides of the pond. And yeah, I hope Dale gets to get a horse to get over there, because I'd pay to see him in the tails and the hat. I really would.
Dale, do you think this makes any difference in the quality of those fields? They always attract high caliber horses, but do you think that more trainers and owners now start thinking about those races on their schedule as opposed to maybe bypassing those and taking a shot somewhere else?
I doubt it. I doubt they run just for that, but it's a nice incentive, and it's a clever thing to start working and meshing together European racing and American racing. Everything's always coming over here. It will be interesting to see how we can do going back across and racing against them.
Now, the win in your ring concepts have revolutionized the game in a lot of different ways, starting with the Breeders' Cup and what we see there with that incredible program, and now we get a chance to see it with Churchill going the other way from Churchill Downs to Royal Ascot. All right, number 2, Rapoli Stables Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner Fierceness is likely to make his 3-year-old debut in the Grade 3 Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream on February 3rd. Guys, only 3 horses who have competed in the Holy Bull have gone on to win the Kentucky Derby. Gopher Gin in 94, Funny Side in 2003, and Barbaro in 2006. That's it. So what do you think of this move? Do you like it, love it, or hate it, Tim Wilkin?
I like it. I mean, you got to start somewhere for your 3-year-old. You're right. And, you know, who's going to question Todd Pletcher where he's going to start his horse? He's based in Florida, and that seems like the logical place for him to start. Well, the other one being Fountain of Youth. And, you know, since Barbaro ran in it, this is the research coming out, Dale. Since Barbaro ran in it in 2006, 31 horses who ran in the Holy Bull ran in the Kentucky Derby. And 10 of those horses won the Holy Bull. But the best finishes were Tiz the Law, who was second in the COVID 2020 Derby, and Audible was third in 2018. And I'm sorry, and Mucho Macho Man was third in 2011. You know, I think that that's a logical starting point for Fierceness. And again, I'm not going to question Todd. I mean, he puts his horses on a schedule, and more often than not, he's right.
Yeah, I have to agree. I love it. I think I'm a big Todd Pletcher fan, as you know, and if he's laying out a map for his horse, he's doing it for a reason. He knows his horse. He knows what he wants to do. And who's to question him? He's won a lot more derbies than I have.
Well, Timmy mentions the other logical starting spot, which would be the Fountain of Youth Stakes, and a lot of times horses will bypass the Holy Bull and wait for the Fountain of Youth and then go to the Florida Derby and then right to the Kentucky Derby. I mentioned the three winners coming from the Holy Bull. The Fountain of Youth has been good. It's had 14 Derby winners, and the Florida Derby is at the top of the list with 25, including last year's winner, Mage. Dale, what's the perceived advantage of starting a horse early in the Holy Bull, or maybe the advantage of waiting for the Fountain of Youth?
Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. You can either, if you got a big, heavy horse that needs to run, you think he needs a lot of races, it gives you the option to run in all 3 if you want. Or if you want to make your start early in the Holy Bull, go ahead and get that first start out of the way, and then give him a little time between the Holy Bull and the Florida Derby. Skip the Fountain of Youth. You just have to know your horse and what you think's best for him, and that's one thing Todd's great at.
And the thing too is why there's a lot more winners of the Fountain of Youth, because that race has been around a lot longer than the Holy Bull, I believe.
Yeah, the Fountain of Youth, again, 14 horses coming through there. We'll see how this plays out. But, again, you get a guy like Todd Pletcher. He knows what he's doing, and he'll get Fierceness started more than likely on February 3rd in that Holy Bull Stakes. All right, guys, let's move on to the next topic, and this one involves some big news that came out this week. Kentucky Senate Majority Floor Leader Damon Thayer will not seek re-election when his term concludes in December of 2024. Thayer has been a huge ally to the thoroughbred industry during his 20-plus years in the Senate. How big of a loss is this for the industry? And, Dale, I know you know Damon well. Let me start with you. How big of a loss is this?
No, it's a huge loss. Damon's a good friend, and I talked to him a couple of days ago right before he announced we were talking about some racing issues that are going to come up in this legislative session. But he told me he was not running again. I couldn't believe it. He loves being a senator, and I loved having him in there. We could call any time, and he would answer, and he carried a lot of water for all areas of the horse racing industry, whether it be breeding or the racetracks or for the horsemen's groups, and he'll be greatly missed. You know, we've got a lot of friends in Frankfort. Horse racing is so popular in Kentucky, and it's such an important part of our state that somebody will pick up the ball and run with it. But Damon's been great for us, and I hate to see him go.
I'd have to concur with that, even though for me, being in New York, I've been watching it more from afar. But I met Damon this past fall at Kentucky Downs. I believe he was in the paddock with Dale. And I became a fan immediately because he said he was a fan of our show and a fan of me. So I don't want him to leave.
We knew there was one fan out there somewhere, Timmy. Now we know who it is.
And now I got to find another one. But no, that's just. But just looking at all the stuff he's done for racing in Kentucky, you know, he's been a friend to the sport. And you want to have friends in high places, and he's definitely that. And hopefully they have someone that can even come close to what he did for the industry. He'll be missed.
Dale, you mentioned there are other friends that the industry has in Frankfurt, and there are plenty of folks in the legislature and in the political system that support horse racing, certainly in the bluegrass. But, Damon was the guy that always seemed to be at the forefront of every battle that racing was facing. And when it came to, penny breakage, when it came to, the instant racing machines and all of those different things, Damon was the guy who spearheaded all of those. How can he be replaced?
He can't be replaced. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and have a talk with Damon, because he was the point man on all that stuff, and he could get everybody in the room together. I'm going to tell him, you've got to assign someone else the point man and give me their cell number so we can keep talking. And hopefully he comes out and he wants to do some lobbying too. I think he'd be a great guy to go lobby Frankfurt from a different angle once he's out. But I'm sure Damon will find somebody to carry the torch for him.
Well, he's got one more year. Again, he won't step down until his term ends in December of 2024. So we've got one more year, and then we'll see where things go from there. But it will be a big loss for the industry in Kentucky and really nationwide in that perspective. All right, it is that time of the show, guys, where we turn our attention and say hello to our good friend Nick Zito, and you get to tell me if the following statement is right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
All right, one topic for you this morning. Today's H. Allen Jerkens Stakes at Gulfstream has attracted 10 runners, including defending champion Value Engineering. The race is going to be run at a distance of 2 miles on the turf. And I know what you're thinking, 2 miles on the turf. The race doesn't include a single jump. It is a straight flat race. And guys, I love races like this, and I say the sport would be better off if tracks carted more of these types of marathon turf races. Is that right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Timmy?
I think it's right. Obviously, these are specialists that run a distance of ground, and you don't see it often. You have the other race that comes to mind, the Belmont Gold Cup. This race, the Jerkens at Gulfstream, last year it wasn't run at 2 miles because the weather put it back on the Tapeta. They ran it a mile and 5/8. I suppose there's a chance that could happen today because the weather isn't supposed to be great. But, people love to bet on turf races, and there's so many angles to go with when you're running at 2 miles. So I think as long as they get the horses to do this, I don't want to see them card, a 2 mile race every week, but the fact that you got horses that this is what they love to do, I think it's great for the game.
Yeah, I love longer races. I think you're 100% right on this one. I wish they ran a lot. I wish they ran more everyday races at longer distances. One thing the great Allen Jerkens did tell me a long time ago, he said, when we started shortening up all these races and running so many more short races, there was no place for the slow horse that wanted to keep running forever. And he said back in the old days in New York, they would have 1.5 mile, 2 mile races all the time. And he said if you had a horse that was slow, you could find a place for it to win races. It was just because they had a lot of stamina. And I'd like to see us get back to running. Plus, they're good betting races. If you can get a big field in a long race like that, they're actually very popular with the bettors.
Dale, do you think the sport has enough of those types of horses in it now for tracks to consider carting more of those types of races?
I think they're out there. I think you had to convince people that the horses can do it. But I think there's a lot of horses out there that they don't have any real problems. They're just not fast enough and quick enough, but they'll run forever. And I think there's plenty of them out there. It would be a tough go to get people's mindset to start running long like that, but I wish it would happen. I like those old long races, and I like route horses.
Do you have any in your barn now?
I got plenty of slow horses in my barn that could benefit from the long races. That might be the problem.
You could be the Chad Brown then of this division.
Yes, exactly. Allen loved them, and that's one thing. That's one reason they carded this race for him, a marathon race like this, because he loved long races and he was well outspoken about it.
Yeah, they're kind of a throwback type of race, and I wish we would see more of these. But for now, we'll just enjoy this 2-mile Alan Jerkens this afternoon at Gulfstream. All right, we'll welcome Nick Zito back to the program for that segment next week, but we'll move on to one more topic before Dale and Tim make their final point of the week. And this one, guys, I want to thank our friend Rhonda Norby over at Equibase for helping to steer me in the direction of some of these statistics. And this is going to get a bit confusing, so bear with me. Steve Asmussen currently leads all trainers by number of wins in 2023 and is number 3 on the overall earnings list behind Brad Cox and Todd Pletcher. Brad Cox is just ahead of Chad Brown in total stakes wins this year, with Asmussen and Pletcher right behind in 3rd and 4th places respectively. But it is Chad Brown who tops all trainers by number of graded stakes wins in 2023. So I'm going to ask you, which trainer is your MVP this year? Tim Wilkin, what do you think?
Well, the MVP, that would sort of be the Eclipse Award then too, right? Correct?
Sure, it could be.
Well, so then I'm not going to vote for any of them. I'm giving it to Bill Mott because I think he had the better year of all of them.
So he's your MVP.
I know that he's my MVP. I know Chad Brown had 39 graded stakes wins. And Chad had 12 grade ones, as did Brad Cox. Bill Mott had 10 grade ones, but he won 3 on Breeders' Cup Day. Chad won 2. But Mott also won the Met Mile, and he won the Pegasus World Cup. I just think he had the phenomenal year. He's going to get he's going to get my vote for the top trainer for the Eclipse Award. So I'm going off the board. That's who my MVP is.
Well, you stole my line. All 3 of them had all 4 had great years. And yes, I'm going with Bill Mott too. He's my MVP and my Eclipse Award winning trainer this year. I think what he did this year was pretty outstanding and deserves recognition, and he should win the Eclipse Award.
I mean, the barn that he had, I mean, the Elite Power, Cody's Wish, Warlike Goddess, he just had, just FYI, he had a barn full of talented runners, and he should be rewarded for the job he did with all of those great runners. It was Murderers Row. That's what I called them when I would see them up at Saratoga every morning. I think he's my MVP.
So what carries more weight? I mean, you guys are talking about Bill Mott. He didn't win the number of graded stakes that Chad Brown won. He doesn't have the number of overall wins that Steve Asmussen has or stakes wins that Brad Cox has. So you're saying it's more quality over quantity with Bill Mott, and that's enough to get it done?
I don't think it's who's done the most of anything. I think it's who's done the most with what they had. And if you look at it that way, I think Bill's a unanimous winner.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it.
You look at, if you look at the game, the biggest races on our calendar each year are the Triple Crown races. And we're not talking about any of the trainers that won the Triple Crown race. And, Rick Dutrow won the Breeders' Cup Classic. We're not talking about him. I mean, I think that you want to reward the person that just excelled with the horses in his barn. I mean, Bill Mott, I think, compared to he had less starters than Brad or Todd or Steve and Chad. I think he had only 625 starters, but he was 5th in earnings. So he's more than a deserving winner, I think, this year with what happened. He won 24 total graded stakes wins for Bill.
Dale, what do trainers cherish more? Winning a large number of races like Steve Asmussen, or winning the right races like, say, Chad Brown, the graded stakes wins? Which one's more important to a trainer?
I think if you boil it down, it'd be the graded stakes wins, and then it goes to grade 1 wins in a year. I mean, my Eclipse Award year, I won 9, and I know Todd had won more money and a couple more grade 1 stakes, but I guess they looked at what we're talking about, what happened with what we had. And but yeah, they're both great things to have, though. But if guys don't have graded horses, and they want to win a lot of races, and that's important, and it's a big deal. And I don't want to run down anybody for having great statistics. And all 4 of those guys had great years, but only one of them can win the Eclipse Award. And I think what Bill did was what he had and how they started out the year good and finished the year good, and that's all you can ask.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see if Bill Mott can take home the hardware. We'll see if the voters agree when the votes are cast in early January for those Eclipse Awards. All right, guys, let's move on to the final segment. It is the time for you each to make one final point this week before we wrap up the show. So, Timmy, let's start with you. What is your final point of the week?
Well, before I get into the final point, I want to make sure I did mention Cody's Wish, didn't I? The Bill Mott Stables. I did mention it, didn't I? Okay.
I believe so.
All right. Well, if I didn't, I did now. But my final point is just a shout out to the newest members of the Joe Hirsch Media Roll of Honor at the National Museum of Racing was announced this week, and Dick Girardi, longtime Philadelphia Daily News writer, is going in there along with the late Paul Moran from Newsday and John Henry. Is that his name? I think it's his name, but he was back in the 1890s. They're all going into the Hall of Fame media honor roll, and they're all deserving, even though I didn't know John.
Well put. And congratulations to those guys. My final point is a little bit political. You know, I was this week named to the HISA advisory board. I've heard from a lot of people, a lot of positive and a few negative from my friends saying I'm sleeping with the enemy and different things. And what I want to point out to everybody in horse racing, this was an act of Congress. This is a federal law. We'll let the courts decide whether or not it's constitutional, let that play out through the court system. But it would take an act of Congress literally right now to get rid of it. So I want to be involved, and I think every horseman should be involved, and we try to mold it and make it better and make them do their job the right way and help racing, because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think HISA is here to stay, and in that respect, everybody rowing in the same direction would be a welcome change with racing right now, and we'll see how this all plays out. Timmy, just so you know, it is John Hervey.
John Hervey.
You were correct. Yeah, John Hervey.
I don't know why I said Henry.
The third member of the honor roll. John Henry, already a member of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I know. He's four-legged. John Hervey.
John Hervey.
I had too much eggnog today.
Yep. Amen. All right, guys. Appreciate the conversation here this morning. We're going to do it all over again next week. Enjoy the races this weekend.
Thanks,
all right, guys,
Mike.
Talk to you later.
All right. Don't forget, if you have a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim discuss, simply email that topic to me, Mike, at horseracingradio.net, and I'll get it worked in. I can promise you they love when our listeners ask them questions and submit topics for them to debate. So make sure you do that. I Ask, They Answer is presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Matthew.
There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Trainer Talk, presented by Fasig-Tipton.
Please join me in welcoming Hall of Fame trainer Todd Fletcher.
Hall of Fame trainer Nick Zito on Trainer Talk. Welcome Hall of Famer Bob Baffert to the program. Hall of Fame trainer Shug McGahee, nice enough to spend some time with us. Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott here on Trainer Talk. Dual Hall of Fame trainer Mark Cassie.
Trainer Talk, the biggest names in horse racing. Wednesdays, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Barbaro turns up the pressure and puts his neck in front. Flashy Bull goes after him in second. Then it's 2.5 lengths to My Golden Song, third and 3 from the front, and they head to the top of the stretch, and Dr. Deckard's not done yet. He battles back inside of Barbaro. These two are just a length in front of Flashy Bull. Then comes My Golden Song, and they run to the top of the stretch in the Holy Bull, and Barbaro and Dr. Deckard are still 1-2. Flashy Bull races next. Then it's 2.5 to My Golden Song, and Barbaro gets the test. Flashy Bull has run up into second. Barbaro reaches for the final furlong, and Barbaro leads by 1.5 lengths. Great Point is charging from the back of the pack. Barbaro is in front. Great Point tries to pass them all, but he can't pass Barbaro.
That's Vic Stauffer with the call of the 2006 running of the Holy Bull. Barbaro, the last horse to come from that race and win the Kentucky Derby. And boy, was he brilliant in both of those races, and we know how good he turned out to be. And, Barbaro, one of only 3 horses to come from the Holy Bull. We'll see if Fierceness, if indeed he makes that race on February 3rd, if that continues to be the plan for the juvenile champion, if he ends up becoming number 4 on the first Saturday in May. I mentioned the Fountain of Youth with 14 winners coming from that race. It's been a very productive prep race. And, of course, the Florida Derby, as we know, the number 1 Derby prep in the history of our sport, with 25 winners coming from there. But the Fountain of Youth, last year Mage ran in the Fountain of Youth, if you recall. He didn't win it. He was 4th. Orb in 2013 and Thunder Gulch in 1995, the most recent runners to come from that one. But that's a race with all kinds of history when it comes to producing Kentucky Derby winners. Go for Gin, Spectacular Bid, going back to Tim Tam, the first horse in 1958 to win the Fountain of Youth Stakes and then go on to win the Kentucky Derby. So that race has produced a lot of big winners, but they have decided, at least at this point anyway, to point for the February 3rd Holy Bull Stakes with Fierceness and get him started there. Now, does he go in the Fountain of Youth after that, or do they await the Florida Derby and then go into the Kentucky Derby that way? We'll have to wait and see. But Dale brought up the point that if you have a big, heavy type of horse that needs to kind of race themselves into shape, it's usually a good idea to go ahead and get them started earlier and give yourself a little bit more time as opposed to waiting for the Fountain of Youth. And I thought that was a great point there during I Ask, They Answer. Hey, don't forget the Blood Horse Magazine is the perfect holiday gift for the horse lover on your list, or for yourself, by the way. It's the gift that keeps on giving all year long. And right now, when you subscribe to the Thoroughbred Industry's premier monthly magazine, you're going to receive a 2024 Blood Horse calendar, which is a $24.95 value. And guess what? It's absolutely free. Go to bloodhorse.com/HRRN, or to buy a beautiful Blood Horse calendar, you can go to shop.bloodhorse.com. But why not get the magazine and then the free calendar by going to bloodhorse.com/HRRN? Yeah, the Florida Derby, my goodness. You look at the horses that have, and up until last year with Mage, when Mage, of course, was second behind Forte in the Florida Derby, You had to come back to 2017 when Always Dreaming won it. But that ended a streak where if you went back to 2001, you had Monarchos in 01, Barbaro, and these are all horses that won both races. They won the Florida Derby and then went on and won the Kentucky Derby. Monarchos in 01, Barbaro in 06. You had Big Brown in 2008, Orb in 13, Nyquist in 2016, and then Always Dreaming in 2017. That's one heck of a run for that prep race. The one that we keep waiting, two really, the Wood Memorial and the Bluegrass Stakes. The Bluegrass is second on the list with most Derby winners with 23. The Wood Memorial sitting at 20. So both of those horses historically have had a lot of success, but boy, it has been a while. The Bluegrass Stakes, you have to go back to 2007 with Street Sense to find the last horse to come out of that race and win, and you have to go back to 1991 and strike the gold if you're going to find the last horse to win both. And how about the Wood? The Wood, funny side, 20 years ago in 2003, the last horse to run in the Wood and win the Kentucky Derby. He was second in that 2003 edition of the Wood Memorial. And then Fusaichi Pegasus in 2000, the last horse to pull off the Wood Derby double. So it's been a while for those two races, which is somewhat mind-boggling when you think of the horses that have come through those races over the past 20 years or so. We'll see. The road to the Kentucky Derby starting to heat up already, and we haven't even gotten to the new year yet. I love talking Derby. All right, my thanks to all of our guests who made this show possible here this morning, including Ashley Anderson for the TwinSpires Triple Play, Kurt Becker for his Stroll Through Racing History, and Dale and Tim in the previous segment. My thanks to all of them for taking time to be here again this morning. My thanks to my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studio, and to Chauncey for handling all of our social media. Check out the podcast at horseracingradio.net and every podcast platform, and follow us on social media. My thanks to you for listening to the show here today. I'm Mike Penna. Go Steelers.